I think the biggest thing that I have against is they take away how D&D fights is more about just steadily taking an opponent down and injuring him rather than like it seems like they just take him out in like 3 hits in here. And
Yeah.
Delicious in Dungeons, it does seem like that's more of like death of 1,000 cuts, while Brimscythe literally just goes down after 2 hits, and I low-key hate that. Like going back to like how they nerfed Grog literally like got wiped out in a second, and then in this go ahead he literally cuts Krieg's head in half as a dragon form like with one strike. And I'm like, okay, where was that Grog? Like like a little bit ago?
We've got a huge problem of inconsistent power levels all over the place.
Dragonclaw, wing and scale. Come now, let's examine a tale of the greatest beast ever considered. Another episode of Big Flying Lizards.
Welcome to Big Flying Lizards, a dragon movie and television podcast. I am your host, Bryce Wilson, and I am joined by the one, the only, once again, Dungeon Master Extraordinaire, Colby Ford.
Again, you're never going to get rid of me.
Can I get that in writing over here? When I get canceled eventually for something that I did during your campaign? Oh, Colby, how we doing?
Pretty good.
Pretty good. Oh,
I'm excited to like really talk some D&D here.
Colby,
we haven't done that before, right?
What's D&D?
You and I have never discussed this.
That sounds something kinky. Well, speaking of kinky, guys, we heard you. We saw the comments. Y'all wanted us to just go all in because we were just edging around the corners each time talking about Legend of Vox Machina. But it is finally time to talk about this insane, ridiculous, and beautiful at times show. So I would love to just dive right on in covering this fantastic show.
Let's do it.
Alrighty. The Legend of Vox Machina is an acclaimed American adult animated fantasy series produced by Metapigeon Tin House and Amazon MGM Studio, premiering on Amazon Prime Video on January 2022. The series follows Vox Machina, a band of 7 eccentric and often scandalous adventurers for hire. Initially more interested in the easy money and cheap ale, this party, including a haunted gunslinger, a fumbling druid, a raunchy bard, and a lovable Goliath barbarian, must rise to the occasion when a terrifying threat emerges across the continent of Tal'Dorei. During this harrowing adventure, they discover that saving the world is their only path to redemption. The series is directed and adapted from the first campaign of the popular Dungeons & Dragons web series Critical Role, with its original cast of Laura Bailey, Taliesin Jaffe, Ashley Johnson, Matthew Mercer, Liam O'Brien, Marisha Ray, Sam Riegel, and Travis Willingham. Returning to voice their iconic characters, its path of production was groundbreaking, beginning with a record-shattering Kickstarter campaign that raised over $11 million from fans, making it one of the most funded films and video projects in the platform's history. This overwhelming support directly led to Amazon commissioning the series. The show has received widespread acclaim for its stunning animation, sharp humor, emotional weight, and skillful adaptation of hundreds of hours of gameplay. Now, Colby, I thought about doing what Austin did when we were talking about the animated Lord of the Rings, where each time we had to bring up Peter Jackson's, we had to hurt ourselves or slap ourselves. And I thought about like each time we had to bring up Critical Role, we have to smack ourselves. But you know what? I'm okay with this being a 10-hour long episode. So, and I also do think like you really cannot separate the two. And I also think a lot of my feelings that I have about this show are based around the just Critical Role, because I think it's fair to say that both of us just have a deep love and affection for Critical Role, and it's really just influenced at least our love for role-playing games in general.
Yeah, I mean, genuinely, this season of this show is telling the story that I was first introduced to D&D by. Like, I was trying to play it at the time, and I was trying to learn how to play it. And so I was watching some things on YouTube, and this, and oddly, a short campaign by the Corridor crew were what I watched.
Matt Mercer is always going to be a god to me. It's funny enough, I want to eventually talk about it because I do have some tinfoil hat conspiracy theories about campaign 4 and some decisions they do, but there's a part of me that does feel a little, I don't want to say feels bad for Matt, but when they made the Legends of Vox Machina, Matt almost has to take a back seat and just see his players. And again, like, I think that that's just the struggle of being the DM, but at the same time, like, I have to feel for him because the show is huge. Like, it's arguably one of Amazon's most successful things they've done.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I feel like this lives in my mind in the same place as like cyberpunk edge runners in this like early 2020s. Like, it feels like there was a wave of absolutely insanely good animation, and this is part of it. But yeah, it has so much history behind it, and what you were saying, like, it's really, really hard to separate Critical Role from the Legend of Vox Machina, because there's so much of it that is in jokes for people who watch it.
Yeah, I mean, like, and again, we'll talk about it, but the door. The door. But it really is true. Like, it's like, it's almost just inside jokes with those that watch it, but also it is just such an accomplishment. And I mean, let's be real, it's every like role-playing group's dream to do what they did. Like, be able to create a story that's not only just so compelling that people want to watch you do it, but it becomes one of the greatest animated TV shows of this. I'd say in the 20s, it's probably going to be ranked in the top 15 best animated series.
And it's incredible how they took, again, so many hours of content. That's one thing. So many in-jokes. That's another thing. So many individual personalities. I mean, there is such a depth of like history that everybody knows. It's kind of weird because every piece of art is an iceberg, right? The author knows 10 times as much about the world and what's going on than anybody else does. For this one, it's like we're seeing so much more of what is actually there.
And I'm really excited to dive into it because there's so much of that. I'm curious, like, there's going to be conversation, and I do want to just preface, like, I'm not one of these people that is just going to worship the ground that Critical Role walks on. I definitely have my criticisms of Critical Role. So if you can't handle people criticizing Critical Role, this is not going to be the episode for you. However, do know that everything that we're going to be, because I know that you're, like, not to be called Colby out over here or anything, but I know that Colby and I are very much in the same vein, that when we do criticize what they're doing, it's not like, oh, they suck, they're woke, motherfuckers. It's more of like, we see what they've done and we know what they can do, and it's just, I mean, the Bard's Lament, I can't wait. I know we're so far away from talking about that, but oh my God, I cannot wait for us to talk about that because I am still angry about that. But I also do just want to talk real quick about, I want your overall thoughts about this, because as I was watching this first 3 episodes, I, ironically enough, struggled really hard to get through these first 2 episodes, which you would think, with these being the first 2, spoiler alert, the first 2 episodes here are the only ones with a dragon until season 2, you'd think that I'd be all on board. But I really struggled because it really seemed like, again, for context, everything that goes on in these first 2 episodes happens before they start streaming. So there's not really something that we can really connect with. Yes, they give a background and like we get filled in with details, so we have a general idea of what's going on, but we don't get to see them actually role play their way through it. But in the flip of that, I feel like they try to really lean into, forgive me for saying this, but it almost seems like childish, crude humor. It seems like half the time they're making this show for kids, and the other half I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, and it's just a really, like, again, I know it gets better as I really watched it, but when I first watched these first 2 episodes, I'm not gonna lie, I enjoy the animation. It's really good. all the voice actors do an amazing job with the characters and bringing them to life. But just the level of like, I don't, and again, I almost feel like I have to put my missionary name tag on over here, but like the unnecessary crude jokes that just seem to pop out of anywhere. It just like, again, like I'd love to get your thoughts on that to begin with, because I know for starters, you're not as much of an anime fan as I am. And I feel like crude jokes and just like borderline childishness is par for the course for anime. So, I mean, it's a little interesting. So I'd love to hear what your necessary thoughts on that are.
I'm pretty aware of how this storyline in that first 2 episode arc came about. I mean, they're trying to bring together some of the backstory that they played through in their home group, and like it bears reminding anybody who doesn't know or who had forgotten what Vox Machina's original name was as a group. They were the super high intensity crew, super high intensity team spirit, something like that.
I was going to say, what does that stand for, Colby? What does that stand for?
Yeah, I mean, this is honestly who they were at the time, and it's kind of interesting to see how they've changed. This feels like a time capsule of those early days when they really were just a bunch of successful voice actors who knew each other from the industry, messing around in a D&D game that they had started for personal reasons.
Yeah.
And then just got thrown into the limelight. And it means there's some really interesting things about this story, like how the characters are set up, how archetypical, like you could say generic
Yeah.
these characters are. But at the same time, they work so well because the people behind them were so excited at the time just to mess around with their friends.
Well, and I just have to say this now. I was going to save it for later, but I think I'm just going to say this now. Campaign 1 will always be my favorite of the campaigns they've done so far. And I mean, I know people really love campaign 2, and there's some amazing moments. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think I can already think of just 5 moments right off the top of the head that are always like just peak role-playing moments that you can just never recreate, even if you like tried to set up a script for it, that are amazing in campaign 2. But the level of just pure joy and excitement of them learning to play this game and slowly just like seeing Travis, who, I mean, again, shocker, I can really relate to Travis in a lot of ways because I started playing D&D. Before I started playing with you, I just got invited by some of my friends, and I just wanted to be the big guy who wasn't smart, wasn't charismatic. I just wanted to hit things, and that was what and I think that even still rolled over a little bit when I played with you. Like, I remember, like, hey, I just want to do something that can hit. And just being able to see him now, he wants to create like a 3-classed prong characters over here, and just like seeing them fall. And again, like, it's not that what they're doing is now is bad, but the way I see it is back then they were just still learning the game, and it was still a game. While at the second half of campaign 2 and campaign 3 felt more like they were trying to all collectively tell a story, which again, nothing's wrong with that. But for me and my entertainment purposes, I prefer watching just that pure nostalgia of them like actually doing that rather than creating a story, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And they didn't have the success they have now, obviously. So it was rough in a lot of ways. I mean, I'm sure we'll get into a tangent about their player that was with them at the time that some of this stuff was happening.
Was there another player? I don't recall.
There was a Dragonborn at one point.
There was.
And, they were getting started on Geek and Sundry, and that footage is still absolutely packed with audio issues. Like, there are bits, like, in the first 20 episodes or so, there's a lot that's, like, damn near unwatchable. Yeah. And you look at them now, and they've got Brendan Lee Mulligan and custom set, and everything is super polished. Everybody's super professional about it. And I mean, to be a hipster about it, I miss that raw, like, excitement.
Like, again, like, I know that they're very much successful in their very own way, but and I'm sure you're familiar with it, but I am just would love to see a case study to see how Legends of Evantris is able to keep, because I feel like they are still very successful, but they keep that level of like raw enjoyment and just love of the game. And I don't know if it's just that they've never been all about, like they've always just been yes anding. It's almost like they've been trying to do a comedy bit with their friends, which is ironic because I just talked about how I don't necessarily enjoy how they're the critical. I'm not that I don't enjoy, but like I prefer how Critical Role treats it as a game, and now they treat it as a show. But with Legends of Vantris, like it's literally just them yes anding each other, and it's just as entertaining as Critical Role to me. Like I think I've laughed harder listening to Legends of Evantris than anything Critical Role has done.
I mean, this is the weird alchemy of different groups of people.
Huh?
I mean, like from my teaching career, from my professional GMing career, this is absolutely something that you see. Every different group of people, even if they have people in common between them, they will always develop different cultures almost just within this one group. Like I've got the one group that is just all about orifice jokes. Like, it's not a pit trap, it's the sucking orifice. This is the show where they are capturing that moment of a new group. Nobody knows really how to act.
Yeah.
And this is the moment where the players are saying, wait, I can do anything.
Yeah.
And with Sam Riegel in the room, anything can include a lot.
Well, and I think you said it earlier, and I want to just circle back as well. Like, with the exception of, like, I'm pretty sure Liam was the only one who knew everybody in the group going into this. Like, I don't think Travis really knew anyone because Laura knew Liam, and I loved listening to the show Vox Machina.
Vox Machina.
I really love, and again, I understand why it's been removed and everything, but like, I really did enjoy listening because I'd love to just hear their feedback. Because not only did they talk about the session, but they talked about a lot of like their out of game chemistry and how that really just related. Because I'm pretty sure that Liam was really just the glue, because this game was a birthday gift for Liam, if I understand correctly. And I'm really excited because Liam really is the beating heart of Critical Role. I don't like, there's some things that I really love that Liam does. There's other times that I just roll my eyes, but I think that, I mean, that's going to be with anybody in any campaign, but you can't deny that Critical Role would literally not exist if it wasn't for Liam O'Brien.
Yeah, I think they all brought something really important. Liam seems to be the driving force, and it seems like he had the thread of what Critical Role would become in like campaign 2 and 3.
Yes.
He was always coming with this more serious character, deep angst and stuff like that. Everybody ends up joking about how Vax is, but like that's a little bit more every character as you get into campaign 3, campaign 4.
Well, even in the first,
so much more dramatic.
Well, even in the first 50 episodes of campaign 1, Vax is like just as much of a jokester. Like, they have the prank wars with Grog. Like, that's like a big part of his character. Like, people want to think of him as just the emo goth boy, but he's not. Like,
well, and that's, I mean, that's a great example of like his experience with the game showing through. That's where you're seeing a really, really good player who knows how to set the stage.
Yes.
Like, he knows Travis is maybe having a little bit more trouble getting into this. And so he's like, I'm going to set up a gimmick for our two characters. And he does that with Laura, with their characters being twins. Obviously, he and Sam need no clue.
Are they friends?
Do they even like each other?
I don't think they do. I hear Sam yells at him on stream. Like, I don't know.
And like, I agree with you that like Liam does seem to be like the glue, the person in the group who is really, really taking it seriously.
Yeah.
Matt is pouring himself into it. It really does take the whole group.
Yeah. I mean,
it's alchemy. It wouldn't be the same thing without all of them.
I feel like we should just get it out of the way now because I feel like we'll be dancing around, and I want to be as respectful as possible because Tiberius was actually one of my favorite characters for when I was first watching it. As I rewatched it before, I can totally see a lot more of like him being a problematic character and what was going on. But at the same time, like, I genuinely was there was a part of me that was sad. And even to this day, there's a part that of me that just breaks my heart that he as a person, I'm blanking on his name, but he as a person has missed out on arguably what could have been one of the largest things that ever happened. And like you said, that Liam saw the vision of what was going on. I feel like he saw the vision of what Critical Role. I don't think anybody else could have imagined how large it was going to be, with the exception of him. And you can make
Orion Akaba.
Yes.
I think you're absolutely right. I think he had more of a background in streaming, so he saw how it could work in some ways that others didn't. I don't think any of them knew how popular it was going to be, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, he had a vision of how it could get big. I would argue that that's part of why he wasn't a good fit for the group.
Yeah, because he definitely
was trying to come at it from like a power gamer, like speed runner streamer.
Yeah. Well, and he also just, again, like, I think it's so important because there's so many, I don't want to say case studies, but YouTube essays that talk about characters that have main character energy. And I think that I feel like every player has to necessarily watch themselves. I've met very few people that have not naturally wanted to like have that main character energy. I know I've had to check myself from time to time from not having that main character energy, but I think that with what happens in this campaign just demonstrates exactly, one, why main character energy destroys a table, and two, just the signs of how you can stop it from getting ahead of itself. Because again, as sad of the story as it is, and again, I don't want to be over here just spilling the dirty laundry. If you're wanting to, there's video essays, like there's all sorts of things you can go and look up, but like you can see that there were conversations had and just it didn't click. And I know that there was other circumstances going on in there, but I think that it is just such a good way that D&D is a team game. It's not a singular person. Like if you like, yes, there's going to be situations where you have a chance to shine, but that shouldn't take away from, you shouldn't try to take away other people's chances to succeed or have those moments to shine.
Yeah. And like personally, I know there are groups that vibe this way and enjoy this, but I have never really enjoyed playing with people who are looking for a way to break the game.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that was his viewpoint. He was approaching it like Skyrim rather than an adventure novel or something like that.
No, I totally agree with you on that front. I also just think that, and again, like I don't want to steal the thunder of other people because there's people that have done like really in-depth analyses on these. But I think also he just saw what was like really appealing, like what people really liked about Travis, or what people really liked about Sam, or what people really liked about Laura, and he just tried to like be a chameleon of doing that rather than just leaning into being sort of like the bumbling doofus that Tiberius was, which was to me just such a amazing thing. I loved like how he was just sort of like the clueless wizard, but he was a sorcerer. Like he was the stupid wizard. That's really what it came down to.
Exactly. Yeah, his character had a great chemistry with the rest of the group. And so that's why, like, if you go and you look at some of the like comics that they did going over the backstories of the characters and stuff like that, Tiberius usually does factor in. For an animated series, they've got to make serious cuts.
Yeah.
And that's an obvious one.
And I do...
Obviously, we eventually do get to Draconia, but like...
It's not the same. And it's just so sad because this was an ultimate moment of like, hey, real life consequences come at you in more ways than you could ever think. Like, I know that there were substance abuse issues. I know that there were harassing issues. I know all of those allegations and for what's true or what's not true, but this is a real life consequence. Like he could be living so much differently than he is now if he was willing to fix those. And again, I love everything that he did that was positive with his character. And I had some fan art of Tiberius saved in my phone when I first started watching it. I think you even said back then, I was like, oh, I love Tiberius. And you're like, oh, no.
Don't get too used to it.
Bryce, you're watching Game of Thrones, right? What's the rule there?
You're not alone in not having clocked, some of the friction that was happening.
Yeah.
Because it was really minor until it wasn't.
Exactly.
And there's like 2 episodes that are kind of
Uncomfortable.
Difficult to watch even now when that friction was really coming to the surface, and when the people in the group were starting to become aware in these groups. I'm going to go down a tangent here, but like when you've got a D&D group, there's a time lag between when the individual people realize that something is wrong and when the group comes together to do something about it.
Yeah. Because you can definitely... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, they were clearly getting more and more uncomfortable. They were having less fun. They were on edge. And so there are a couple of episodes right at the beginning of the Briarwood arc that are even hard to watch because these people don't like each other right then.
Yeah. Like, legitimately, when you go back and watch one of these episodes in particular, you don't, like, if you just were to watch that one, you would not think, you're like, they're going to stop doing this in 2 weeks. Like, you're like, there's no way that this is sustainable. And again, like, I know we're half an hour in, we'll talk about the show eventually, but I do think that this is so important because something that you started doing, and again, like, I wonder why I don't think I had anything to do with this, was you started doing session zeros of setting expectations of like, okay, what do you all think is acceptable to do? And like, what is something that you guys feel comfortable? What type of humor do you find acceptable? What types of real life consequences? Because I think the both of, like, I know you, like, I think the both of us can really relate that we like to have darker stories because the darker the story, the brighter, like, the more success you see. But I also know that people don't tend to like the dark, don't they? They don't like to stare into the abyss because they're scared of what will stare back. And I think that it's so important to not only when you have that session zero, like, establish those rails, but when players start to tiptoe along that line of being comfortable enough to come in and say, hey, you're starting to get close to this edge, like, and even if it's just a conversation of like, hey, how far are you planning to go on this edge? Okay, if that's as far as it is, perfect. Or like, hey, you might want to just dial it back a little bit because, again, no table wants to experience what was going on around that table.
Yeah, absolutely. Thinking back on campaign 1, just as a Critical Role fan, it can be easy to forget how many episodes they got in.
Yeah.
Before this all went down. It was like episode 27, 28, somewhere around there. There's a lot of content before this all came to the surface, before people decided they were unhappy enough to do something about it. And I mean, part of the lesson to learn is obviously do your due diligence at the beginning of the game. And they did. It was working for the context that they were playing in. It was working presumably for Pathfinder, for having a session once a month that's 6 hours long, for just fucking around in somebody's like dining room. But I feel like there was this huge adjustment that they all had to make to the internet. I mean, Matt was struggling very publicly with people telling him that he was running the game wrong. We will, I'm sure, talk about the flack that Marisha got.
Did she get flack?
Campaign 1.
I don't think she got flack. I hear that women are treated.
Ray would never.
I hear women are very respected on YouTube. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, so like there was all of this. They were getting used to a new role, and I mean now I'm streaming D&D, and it's so different. It's so different to put something on the internet, to put something out publicly, than it is to just play for private enjoyment.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you brought that up because I think that that's something that just everybody talks about. Oh, we should stream our D&D. We're so funny. It's like, it's the same idea of like everybody at the office thinks that they need to make their show, like make their life into the office. And I'm sure that you go into these situations having conversations with the people that you stream with, just saying, hey, like, this is not the same idea. Like, it's a whole nother process putting ourselves out there on the internet. And I think that it's just so difficult for people to like really separate themselves. I feel like as somebody who's been streaming for a little over a year now, I feel more comfortable doing a D&D or role-playing game session being streamed just because I've gotten the ability just to turn that switch off of like, hey, I'm just talking with my friends here. I'm not having people watching me. And again, like, I know it's completely different where they had a pretty decent following right off the bat, but it's just so, I think it's just something people have to consider if they want to start streaming their games, is that
Yeah,
it's going to be
absolutely.
different.
Everybody needs to know that it's going to change everything.
Yeah.
And the more success you find, the more it's going to change. I mean, another great example of this is MCDM, Matt Colville's company. They started streaming the Chain of Acheron, which was and what it came down to is that not all the players ended up being comfortable just being on camera.
Yeah.
They were getting a following, they were getting more popular, but again, like, it is so complicated when your ingredients are people, and nobody is one-dimensional. Nobody is just one kind of ingredient.
Yeah. So we really should get into the episode or episodes. But if it's all right with you, I would love for us to start episode 1, The Terror of Tal'Dorei, part 1.
Absolutely.
So the episode does open up with, I think, a very classical entrance where you do hear Matt Mercer with his sexy voice, like, "In a land before there was time, there was a danger in Tal'Dorei," the whole spiel. I'm butchering it there. And there's an entire cast of adventurers that just get annihilated right off the bat. And I don't know what I was really expecting when I first saw it, but I totally was like, I feel like I'm grasping my pearls throughout this, but it seemed to be like really over the top. And I know that that's what they were going for, because they're like, "What the fuck?" And blood flying everywhere, people being eviscerated. And again, like, I don't know what I was really expecting, but it was like, I wasn't necessarily expecting that. But at the same time, I sort of do appreciate that they're like, "Hey, this is what you're signing yourself up for by starting the show." So I can't get too upset, but at the same time, I was like a little taken aback. Again, like, you know that I'm not somebody to grasp my pearls, but it just seemed, again, like for me at times, just to be a little over the top of.
Yeah, I mean, over the top, and I think it's efficient storytelling to get started in a way that tells the audience what they're in for. I think that's what they needed to do, knowing what else was going to happen in the first episode.
Yeah.
And we've switched places with, so like for anime, I'm the doubter, you're the native. For potty humor, I'm all about that. Like, just to show you how about this I am, I have, like, the band I have recently gotten into is a slam metal band. Their band name is Pee Pee Poo Poo Ballsectomy. So this intro was made for me.
I'm happy for that. It's just, to me, I think the part that I struggle with, and again, we'll see more of it as we get more into the episode, but it really does try to seem like it's trying to appeal to two completely different audiences at time. Because, like, the pee pee poo poo humor behind it is like borderline 12-year-old boy humor, but at the same time, you're seeing the most horrific just evisceration of humanoids and the worst possible language, that if you even thought about that language in front of a child, you'd be shot on sight. But
pull my beads of love, baby.
We're not there yet. We're in episode 1. We're not in episode 3 yet, which I can't wait to talk about that.
Yeah.
I do, because right now we're also just in the Tal'Dorei Council, meeting everybody that's a part of it, and I genuinely love the design that they have for Uriel. I think Uriel, like, he's even better than how Matt really described him to be, because for me, it really felt like Uriel was insert king from like it seemed
absolutely.
He seemed very distinct, very noble, but he also, I don't know how many times I've seen a king that's bald, and I don't know why, but I love me my bald kings. What can I say?
Taste is taste, man.
But on the flip side of that, we also just are introduced to Vox Machina in the bar. Very classic. It's the very traditional. They start off in, like,
in a tavern.
Every adventure. Yeah. It's like every D&D, and I do have to appreciate that.
Yeah. It's a cliche because it works.
Yes.
Because, you know, it's unoriginal, because, like, if you want a starting scenario that is perfect and will do everything for you, start in a tavern. Don't try to change that. I mean, I think that this goes one step further in that it starts off in a bar brawl instead of just in a bar. And I think that also plays an important role in, like, I love how this brawl serves as character introductions for each of these characters.
Yes. I mean,
Which, like, if you were watching Critical Role in the day, you had to just listen to their, like, blurred out artwork, long descriptions of their characters' backstories.
like, you had to go into the deep web to find the
Yeah.
non-blurred out, like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Which-
so, like, again, efficient storytelling, which a very talented group of animators and writers are going to do. Like, I think that it is, again, very efficient in showing you, number one, what's the tone going to be? Pee pee, poo poo, balls, blood and guts and massacres. It shows you, what's the setting like? We've got, 200-foot tall ceilings in the grand palace and sun streaming in through the stained glass windows. Typical high fantasy. And then we have these assholes. And we get our character introductions one by one, where they're just showing off what they do, both in terms of their personality and in terms of action.
Well,
yeah.
And I mean, we get a sense of it a little bit just with Percy inventing the pepper box, but I think we're going to get even more a sense of it in the Mighty Nine show, because I do love the idea of using magic and technology to really develop. And I mean, I feel like I need to actually slap myself every time I bring up Arcane, but I love Arcane so much, and I love how they do it that in the most masterful of way of showing how you take magic and you take technology and you create something that's allows you to do something almost divine. Because again, when you're going through and you're just seeing the artwork, like, I love just seeing, like, I need to get myself just the book of the artwork from the show of Legends of Vox Machina, because the capital, I'm blanking. I'm not
Amon.
a real critter. Amon.
I run 2 games in Exandria. I have to remember these things.
Well, Amon is just like, I know I've talked to you a little bit about this, but I'm really basing the main city in my own fantasy book very similarly to Amon, but rather than having the castle like on the center of like a mountain, it's a floating castle. But it's this just same idea of this massive city that's surrounding the one place with massive walls, and it's the powerhouse, but yada yada yada.
Yeah,
we can get into that else what time, but I just love they clearly took so much time to create this beautiful world, and it shows.
It really does. Yeah, it really does. And you can tell that everyone was having a good time with this, that the artists were vibing with the ideas that had been described to them, and they were vibing with the ideas. And to be honest, it's in vogue, partly because of Critical Role. I mean, I think that if some other streamers with a different campaign had taken off, we might have a community today that is all about the low fantasy or the dark fantasy. But Matt Mercer and his friends like super high fantasy, and it vibes with a lot of people. Like, it vibes with your World of Warcraft players, with your Arcane fans and your League of Legends players. High fantasy is I don't want to say this in a way that sounds like I'm denigrating it, but it's an easy sell.
Well, and I want you to denigrate it a little. Tell me more, Daddy. But because, I mean, I agree. Don't get me wrong. I love me some dark fantasy. Elden Ring is still one of my favorite video games of all time. Just the Soul series in general is one of the most popular video games of all time. But what do you think it is about high fantasy that's just so... It literally is the candy of the fantasy world.
Yeah.
I know that there's been people that have really tried... there's one particular book series that I really want to try out and see, but each time I try getting into it, it doesn't connect with me. But they've tried doing Black Powder fantasy. There's high tech fantasy. There's, sci-fi, but it really does seem like high fantasy is, at this
Mhm.
point in time where we are now, it's at its peak, or I mean,
Yeah.
at the highest
And
point.
like I don't want to reach too far for like societal parallels and stuff, but like to me it's about like people look around at their real lives and stuff kind of sucks every day, you know, just a little bit worse every day, a little bit scarier, a little bit less sure. It's just kind of how the world is, more in some places than others, obviously. And high fantasy is, to me, it's almost like, make it as big and pretty and epic as you want, and don't worry about whether it would possibly work in real life with any amount of magic. Like, I don't care how magical the world is, a 200-foot high ceiling in your throne room is actually going to be really inconvenient. It's going to be really uncomfortable. You're going to have weather systems in there.
Those goddamn birds, they keep getting up there.
Exactly. You're going to have pigeons in the rafters.
I'm rewatching Game of Thrones for the podcast, and something that I absolutely love that they do, because they don't have like 200-foot ceilings, but the ceiling is still pretty tall
Mhm.
in the throne room. But if you look in there, the floor is filthy. There's always
Exactly.
like leaves everywhere. There's clumps of dirt. Like, and again, like,
Mhm.
I'm sure that's very realistic to what it actually was like back in the day, like to what these timelines are based off of. But when you watch, like, you did not see a speck of dirt in the throne room of Tal'Dorei. And again, I know
Yeah.
that has more to do with magic, but like it is very much just of like, what are we doing here, guys?
Yeah, it's to me it's like cotton candy. It's idealized. It's just giving you everything you want, nothing you don't. I think that, like, for my personal tastes, I like a little bit lower fantasy. You know, I like a little bit more Lord of the Rings.
The first
You know,
law.
like Iron Age rather than Renaissance. And also, I'm a sucker for like a soft magic system at the same time. Like mystery in the world and poorly educated people who, you know, their entire everything they can imagine, they've imagined staring into a literal wood fire. And because I enjoy when magic and when fantasy is awe-inspiring more than when I think that high fantasy these days, you know, Critical Role for the last 10 years has really been making a sort of a comfort fantasy instead.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, obviously it's what people want.
Exactly. And I'm glad you actually bring this up, because this is a good jumping off point to just discuss something I really wanted to discuss. And I think it's just in the game in general. I know we touched on it and talked a bit about it when we talked about Delicious in Dungeon, but especially in this bar fight, there was something about it that you can tell that it was so D&D, where there was no stakes to it. Like,
Yeah.
literally, Grog chopped off the leader of the guy's hand, and like the guy was like, man, this
Yeah.
sucks. Like,
Yeah.
this is gonna cost some gold to fix. And like Percy almost straight up just shoots a lady through the face with the pepper box. They're
Yeah.
over here about to commit murder. They're maiming people, and all that happens is they get tossed out of a bar. There's no stakes because of magic. And like, to me, it's different because it is based off of D&D. It's a little bit of a comedy, but I want there to be stakes. Like, I want things to actually, I want,
Yeah.
one, death needs to mean something, and two, getting hurt needs to mean
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, D&D famously struggles with that. It, you know, uses a long track of hit points to tell you how long fights should go on, and everything you do just kind of chips away. I think that they did something really smart converting to this show. They seem to have leaned in a little bit more to the, you know, fantasy adventurers as superheroes rather than as, you know, actual people in a fantasy world. And again, these character intros are all about telling us what are each of these people's powers and
their weaknesses.
Yeah, what are their powers and what are they struggling with? You know, Percy, I mean, it's an inside joke, but to a certain extent, Percy is like the first person with the first gun. Of course it's gonna fuck up and not work a lot. It's gonna jam a lot. It's gonna misfire a lot. And us critters who, like, just remember how many times Taliesin would roll badly and his gun would jam. We can chuckle at that as an inside joke, but then it works in the world. But you do kind of have to let go of any hope of this being, a grounded story. It doesn't mean it can't be a good story, but they're not going to make this gritty, grounded. You're not going to recognize yourself as directly, in these characters.
And I do think that there's going to be another point in this particular episode where we're going to be able to go through this a little bit more. So if it's all right with you, I'd love to bring this conversation back up later, but move along a little bit because as we had discussed earlier, Uriel is trying to figure out what's going on because these adventurers are getting attacked, like cities are getting attacked. They don't know what to do. They're running out of adventurer groups to send to fight this off. So they're just sort of like, hey, whoever will do this, we will give them a big reward. And that leads to Scanlan coming in and telling the group like, hey, let's go do this. We need some quick, easy cash. And look, it's for a good cause. And I feel like there's one part that I do really struggle with as well. I want to first preface, I love Critical Role, guys. I'm going to love this show as it goes on. But there are so many things that I struggle with in this first couple episodes. And the first time is like when Keyleth and when Pike are just like, should we be doing this? Should we be together? If you think about it for longer than 5 seconds, you're like, no. You should not be with these people. Like Scanlan is literally trying to fuck everybody in the group. Literally,
Grog is a mass murderer. He's a dangerous psychopath, honestly.
And Vex and Vax are trying to fuck everything, not literally, but figuratively.
Exactly. Yeah, and these are not characters who, like, if you plopped these people down on a real street, they would not get along.
No.
Let's just be honest. They really wouldn't. That's what happens when you're playing with pure archetype. They are pure, like, boiled down essence of character. And so there is a lot more suspension of disbelief that you have to do to enjoy this and kind of go along with it.
And something that you did that I always really loved when you DM'd for us is you would always emphasize, how did you guys end up together? Like what is keeping you guys together? Because there's been games where I'm just like, what is keeping this particular character with the group? There's sometimes they're just like, it doesn't make any sense. And like, you can still play the game and still have a good time. But again, it's just, you're not immersing yourself in it. And we're going to get past episode 1 eventually, guys. But this is the part that I really struggle with is I wish that they would have almost just leaned into like Pike being the corrupt priest and Keyleth just being like, this is more like, what's Colby, I'm blanking on it. What's the term that when the Amish people leave the
Rumspringa?
Yeah, I wish they would have just leaned into like Keyleth is doing Rumspringa right now before her Armente. Like that, to me, that would make so much more sense than just like, guys, we need to be good over here. And while Grog is literally playing hacky sack with a hand over there in the corner. And again, like, I want to emphasize this is not coming out of a place of like hating on them. It's just, to me, making a storyline in these. Again, like, I'm going to say such positive things, but if I were to have some creative control, that's the direction I would have gone with it.
Yeah, well, and honestly, it's, I think, a symptom of just how packed with ideas this show ends up being, because we're trying to turn, for this entire first arc, we're probably talking on the order of like 60 episodes, 4-ish hours a piece of character development and inside jokes. And, you know, if they didn't reference the like balls flicking game that Axe and Grog were playing, then their community is going to be up in arms. You know, they're also they're trying to create a show to please so many different people. And like, again, like, I'm also going to be like nitpicking all over the place, because I was disappointed lots of times by the jokes that didn't make it in, by the moments that didn't make it in, or by the moments that went differently. Like, one, to spoil slightly. I think this is from a future season too, but like when Scanlan is getting angsty and somebody tries to sell him drugs.
Yes.
That was such a much more important moment in the show, or in the live stream, that almost it's hard to even recognize how good of a moment that was until you know where it pays off.
Yeah.
So
And
they're just dealing with so much to get in each of these episodes.
I cannot wait to talk about that, but I just know that that's going to derail us so much. So I will save us so we can have that 20-hour episode when we get to those episodes. But I completely agree. Like, I don't think, like, moving on. Throughout this conversation, they're really trying to give us the hint that, and again, I'm blanking on his name. I really should just have it all, but not General Craig, but the other guy. They're trying to, like, oh yeah, he's the villain, like nod, wink, wink, like very Scooby-Dooing it up with us over here trying to do it. Like, I almost would have rather that they just not give us any indication, because I just feel like it's very cheesy in episode 2 when it ends up that he's not the villain. And also, spoiler alert for the campaign, he is actually a villain, just not in that, like, he's a villain for somebody else. Like,
exactly.
And so, like, I just wish that they would have just kept him as, like, every council needs an asshole, just keep him as the asshole. Like, but
yeah, and in terms of comparing this to other fantasy shows, that is a really obvious move. And again, this show, this property almost exists in too many places at once, because if you want to talk about it in terms of like best practices for running your own D&D game, this scene of, you know, exposition from the nobles, that's a great tip. If you need your players to pay attention to something, tell them that somebody important is saying it. It's not the very best or most awesome way that you can do it, but it's solid. Another move is like, okay, you've got this scene where they're just going to get the quest, and players' tendencies, especially players who have played before, is going to be like, all right, let's get the quest. Tell me what I have to do. Let's get on it. I want to get to the story. Throwing in, hey, you ranger, you feel something weird, and then say nothing else about it. Just adding that extra little note of mystery to what is otherwise a very generic and kind of like formulaic scene is solid. It's not world class, but it's the kind of solid move that I wish new dungeon masters would do more often.
Do you know what I'm all just taking from this scene, Colby? I think I'm taking that Rangers suck. I think that's what it just comes down to.
Rangers suck. I mean, you can't even bring your animal anywhere.
Exactly. You can't bring your animal anywhere. You get headaches and whatever, like an animal that you're hunting. Like, what's the point? Like, if you're not a gloomstalker, what are you doing? Like,
exactly. Rangers suck because so many reasons that Rangers suck. Because 5e didn't know what it was doing with Rangers. Because
exactly.
Yeah.
If you're not a fighter with a bow, like, what are you doing?
Exactly. And they didn't have a good, clear idea of what they wanted the fantasy to be and how that was going to play well with the other classes. And they kind of, like, from doing anything actually interesting with it.
Maybe they will in 6e. We'll see.
I have my doubts.
But speaking of having your doubts, going back to the show, they do accept the quest, and I love the airship. The airship looks so good. You can see the money that's going into this show, specifically with the airship. And they land in the village that's very near to where the dragon has been having issues. They start inquiring. And again, like, something that I struggle with, again, guys, I swear I'm going to say something good about the show eventually, but something that I really hate is they took away, like, what is Scanlan supposed to be good at? He's supposed to be good at talking to people. He's supposed to be good with these social interactions. And they make him like a bumbling idiot to the point where Vex has to go in. And again, like, I'm not saying that, like, she didn't deserve the spotlight right then, but like, and maybe they're just trying to emphasize early on that Scanlan doesn't really have a place here in the party, because we all know where the direction it's going to be going with that. but it just seems like you're taking away one character's whole point of their character and just dedicating him to be the butt of the joke in the show.
Yeah. It's another great example of behavior that would get you thrown out in real life. And he's supposed to, and honestly, like in the game that they're representing, he probably passed a check spectacularly. And that's why he's not thrown out. But they don't have time to communicate that. And their higher priority is to show the dynamic between Scanlan and Vex, who is always there to step in and with the rational take, as she thinks.
Hashtag Broomgate. Never forget. Never forget.
I think that's a great example of a character trope I've seen in other places, where you have like supposedly the wacky one and supposedly the rational one, and over time you start to see how those dynamics break down. But so they're trying to throw so much information at you that a lot of it can't come in the ideal way.
No.
I think it was so smart for them to have released these episodes 3 at a time originally, because if we had only gotten episode 1, people would have said this show's gonna suck.
If they would have only had episode 1 and 2, I think they would have said the show was gonna suck.
You need the Briarwoods to really turn this into something and show us what this show intends to do.
Yes.
And to show us that like the assholeness is the starting point that we're going to try and evolve away from, rather than,
And I'm going to say this now, but we're going to dive right back into, I think we want to get to the Briarwood Arc. I think that's all that's coming down to, but I am convinced that Briarwood Arc is what made Critical Role successful. If it wasn't for the Briarwood Arc, it would have just been another one of those niche like it would have been successful. I think it would be very similar to, I don't want to say very similar, but they'd be putting up numbers like Legends of Adventures, but they wouldn't have a TV show. They wouldn't have an insane media empire. I firmly believe that the Briarwood Arc is just one of the best arcs in storytelling.
Yeah, and they did a fantastic job translating it into this show. I was so happy that they gave it an entire season. It deserves it.
Yes.
Not because, what comes after it sucks or anything, but because that's where it became really obvious the kind of lightning in a bottle they had. There are bits of the Craghammer arc that I miss, that I would like to see in this show. Yes. I think that there are people whose only experience with Critical Role is Legend of Vox Machina. It's going to be the TV that they come to, and they're going to know nothing about Clarota, which is obviously the actual best character of the entirety of Critical Role.
And let's be real though, as much as I would love an entire season of them in the Underdark, it does totally make sense why they can't do it, because 1, it is so Tiberius focused, and 2, the main villain at the end is a beholder, which Wizards of the Coast have trademark rights to, as we'll discuss in season 2. They try to do their version of it, but again, I'm going to show my hand early. I hated it, but it's, again, I would love for them to do an Underdark coverage. I don't think they actually go into the Underdark in the Mighty Nine.
I don't think so.
Do they go into the Underdark at all during the 3rd campaign? Do you know?
Not that I know of. I'm only about halfway through campaign 3. I think campaign 2, they very briefly are technically in the Underdark. And that's one of those places where I'm like, fingers crossed that makes it in the episode, because that's where had his 15-minute cameo when he showed up on Critical Role and played what's his character's name? The kobold.
Or
what's Splat or Spurt or something like that.
It's Spurt.
with his scorpion on a stick as his main weapon, and bag of bees, and his skunk in a cage on his back, and he dies within 15 minutes. Perfect. That happens in the Underdark, technically. And I will be so disappointed if that doesn't make the show.
One of the most like, I was dying so hard because he was like, how many hit points do you have? You're like, oh, 15. You're like, oh.
Hey, Spurt, how old are you? 11 days. How long do kobolds live? 11 days. Which, beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I hope it makes it in. But yeah, I think you're right that like the Underdark is likely not going to be a thing in the minds of anybody who doesn't know D&D and who does know this, who watches this property. They're not going to have any inkling that there's supposed to be this entire subterranean world. I think campaign 2 will have to mention it. But who knows if we'll see it. And again, the Underdark is such a Wizards of the Coast product. Yeah. It's so linked with, I mean, the Legend of Drizzt and the Forgotten Realms is really where the Underdark, becomes a thing culturally. Obviously, people, there's more about it. But in my mind, that's, what makes it big. And it's a shame. They just, seems like they couldn't step there.
No, I don't think they're ever going to even talk about it because I think Clarota makes like the tiniest of cameos when they're doing recap of their adventures they've been doing. So I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But do you know who makes more of a cameo? Brimscythe makes more of a cameo.
Brimscythe.
Because in this current episode that we're talking about,
we actually have a dragon. Right off the bat.
And we're going to be doing a dragon grade of him at the end when we eventually end this in 7 hours. But we do have it where, again, like I wasn't familiar with this term until I started doing some research about this episode. But I do think that this show definitely suffers from something called the Wharf effect, I think it's called. And for those of you who don't know what the Wharf effect is, just the layman's terms is that there's an overpowered character that has to be challenged somehow, but it doesn't seem to make sense, like how it's challenged. Again, I might be butchering it, Colby, and you're welcome to correct me where I'm wrong. But from what I've understood and done research on, that seems to be the general
I mean, it's a writing shortcut. You've got a character who is established as the tough guy, and so if somebody comes up and knocks him out with one punch, things are serious. But when you've got, 8, 9 seasons of the Next Generation, and Wharf is your standard tough guy the entire time, he just ends up getting knocked out a lot. And if you want a really egregious version of this, go and watch through the 3rd season of Invincible, where, supposedly, that's the freaking title of the show, literally invincible superheroes are getting tased and knocked out of the fight. It's one of those things that bugs the absolute hell out of me because I really have trouble with that kind of like cognitive dissonance of, if something can take out Grog, then what does that mean? How are you supposed to defeat that if that is actually how powerful Brimscythe is? Let alone, how are you going to do it in 40 minutes?
Exactly, because that's what Brimscythe does. He wipes out Grog in nearly half the party, like with one breath weapon. And this is a part where I think it would make a lot more sense to have Keyleth right now be more of like, I'm in my party phase on a bender, rather than like, I'm trying to go and do a mission. And because she freezes up. And again, I know, like, I really love the direction that they take Keyleth and what she's doing. But I think it makes more sense if she's like, oh shit, like this is real, rather than, because she's the one fighting for them to be doing all these adventures the entire time that are for good, just for it to freeze up at the last second. And again, I'll talk positively about the show eventually, but it's going to happen. I swear. Just wait. Just you wait. But like, that's what's going on is Keyleth is in the back just having like in shell shock. And again, it's not like she has no right to be, but all of her friends are getting wiped out. Grog is on the ground, literally with his ribs like sticking out, and he's profusely bleeding. And Keyleth does eventually save them because Brimscythe makes an avalanche land on top of him, and she does the whole Groot thing in Guardians of the Galaxy. but it just shows them that they're just so outclassed. But with this Wharf situation, there's not really a difference between like this episode and next episode. Like, yes, Vax goes and flirts with Gilmore for some information, but let's be real, that information it doesn't really help. I mean, it does, but it doesn't. It's useless.
I mean, this is a problem that is deeply baked into a lot of fantasy RPGs, just explaining where this power comes from. If you're playing superhero-like powerful characters, magical wizards and stuff, it is either going to be hard to challenge them or they're going to feel less magical. You know, that's the line you have to walk. And I don't think there's any perfect solution for that. But definitely in these episodes where they're working so hard to create a foundation for what comes later, that, you know, moment to moment, they have to take some shortcuts. And I mean, I would have loved for this to be an 18 episode season. Yeah. And for the god awful amount of money that they raised, they could give us an extra 6 episodes. You know, just give this a little bit more space to breathe and take fewer of those sort of writing shortcuts. Yeah. Because, you know, there's really is nothing in the show itself that's telegraphing how or why these people are becoming more powerful, becoming capable of facing what they do later on. It acts like, oh, now you're good with your personal trauma. That makes you more powerful, which kind of is the Critical Role brand. And it's what people love. But on the actual live stream, you have that meta aspect of like, oh, they leveled up. That's why they're doing new cool stuff. And there's no equivalent of that in the show.
I mean, I will push back a little bit. Like, I completely agree with season 1. There is nothing. But I feel like how they get around that in season 2 is with the artifacts, with the vestiges. Like, that's how they get around it, because otherwise, you're right. Like, they just are, like, through the power of friendship and trauma bonding, we defeat Brimscythe. And it just, it's slop. And okay, let's finish up this episode, because I want to get to the dragon fight, because there's so much to cover. But they get defeated. The dragon goes and destroys the village, and it's meaningful because everybody at first was like, not our monkey, not our circus, let's get the fuck out. And then they see that, and they have, and Vex and Vax in particular have, like, they don't have direct callbacks, as in we don't see direct flashbacks, but you can they open up that their mother was killed by a dragon attack in a very similar way, and so they want to be able to help in this situation. But at one point, one of the children dies in their arms. But it doesn't mean as, like, again, don't take this the wrong way, that children dying doesn't mean as much to me. It doesn't mean as much in this world, because people get resurrected. People have the ability to heal. And it falls flat.
And they have to nerf Pike to make it possible. I mean, this is an ongoing challenge running D&D, is like, how do you do the typical scene where somebody passes on an important bit of information with their dying breath in a world where you can magically heal anything in a moment?
Yeah.
It's really, really hard to do. And I think that they just do it in a way that we all expect, but doesn't work if you really think about it.
And again, like, going back to the whole corrupt priest that I wish they would have taken with Pike, which they sort of do, but they don't really do, because I feel like they could have really done, like, she healed Grog in a moment of, like, pure desperation and panic, and just you could have seen that, like, it was the pure love she had for Grog is what actually healed him, but otherwise she's not able to heal people. Like, I feel like that's a lot more compelling than, I healed Grog. Oh, this child
can't.
Tough luck.
Yep.
I used up my 3rd level spell earlier. It sucks to suck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think the show overall, I mean, obviously they don't at any point really stay true to the abilities, the actual spells, which is good. They shouldn't. That would become boring very, very quickly. that would become Harry Potter very quickly, where people just kind of memorize the spells and say, "Oh, here's a new spell." If they telegraphed that, then it would be very much more obvious how suddenly this character can do something they couldn't before, that suddenly solves a problem. Time Turner, resurrection from Pike, and so you kind of need some really contrived reasons why things can't work now. Why can't Keyleth access the power that she has? Is it just because she's scared and kind of sheltered and doesn't know how to react? I mean, that's what the show is saying, but at least with the live stream, we had this extra layer of, no, there's an actual reason. We just don't talk about it. It's mechanics.
It dampers the vibe, man.
Meta pigeon, like, it kind of robs us of that tongue-in-cheek stuff.
Yeah.
And doesn't leave us with a way for us to tell why and how these characters are able to do things in one scene and not able to in another.
No, I couldn't have put it better myself on that front. And I mean, I do think they get better. I genuinely do think they get better as they go along. But again, like, I think these first 2 episodes, it's something they struggle with, and they just need to get through these 2 episodes just like we do. And
Yeah.
So diving into episode 2, which is The Terror of Tal'Dorei Part 2. The episode starts off with General Craig's army being decimated by Brimscythe. They just are trying to show how powerful Brimscythe is, and 2, they're trying to hint that why would General Craig send somebody after his own army? It's clearly this other guy. He would never do that. And Vox Machina reports back to tell them that it's a blue dragon, but just in time, just after General Craig, Krieg, not Craig, Krieg, right after Krieg had just told him that. And they start the whole intrigue portion where they're like, okay, Vax, you go with Pike to Gilmore. Scanlan and Grog, you follow, which I have it. Gregory Fince? Is that
Fince? Yeah.
Yeah, we get it from Fince, and I don't really think we know what Percy and Laura, and not Laura, well, it is Laura, but Percy and Vex are doing right now, other than making out. Who knows? Spoiler alert. But I do really like, though, that they're establishing early on that Grog is Scanlan's best man just as much as, like, they're the dynamic duo. And whenever they were on scene together, like, whenever they, like, Sam and Travis together, I think, have some of the best on-screen chemistry, like, in Critical Role. I love nearly everything that they do together, and I know I love Travis and I love Sam. Like, everybody does. Like, but there's a reason, is because, one, they have the mentality of support the person that they're on doing a scene with. Not to say that the other people don't do it, but I think that I've seen Sam and I've seen Travis have their characters take a step back when they don't need to take a step back to give somebody else a chance to really shine. And I think that it's not only obvious, but it oftentimes really works and just makes it so that they can have those more meaningful experiences and moments as a character. And I think that's just one of the reasons that I really love them as characters. And let's be real, they're hilarious.
Yeah, they are. Taking this as a case study for, people who want to get into D&D and who want to create their own stories like this. This show is both full of things that you could feel are so generic that why would you want to play the standard, like, 6 intelligence idiot barbarian? Well, the reason you would want to do that is because the story doesn't come from the originality of your character concept. The story comes with the mixing between more than one character, of course, so the relationships, the interactions between characters, but also the interactions between the unique situation that they're put in and the characters. So, like, this is a great example for, like, I will always be a proponent of, play the brown-haired, angry, 43-year-old white male like fighter who is on a vengeance quest because somebody murdered his wife. Do it. It's a cliche. It's okay.
Yeah.
Go for it. And the way that you find originality so often, and I think that Critical Role did a worse and worse job of this. Going on into campaign 2, they're kind of in a sweet spot. In campaign 3, they're doing it too much. In campaign 4, I think they're doing it way too much. I hope I'm wrong. I've only watched one episode. But anyway, they're doing this thing where every character has to be utterly unique, the most crazy, ridiculous, over-the-top thing that you have never heard of.
Yeah.
We've all heard of a horny bard. We've all heard of an 8-foot-tall, like, idiot. And what these people did in this campaign, and part of why I think they took off so hard, both with longtime fans of D&D and with people who had never seen it before, is because they did a fantastic job of taking that time to play out those interactions between two characters at a time.
Yeah.
And if you're just like watching the show, it can be easy to kind of stop paying attention, and certainly they're not going to take time for the hours of conversations where people are just trying to get their backstories down. But what they did that was so helpful is that when they were creating these characters, all of them already had connections to each other. Yeah. Like, why would Grog get along with these people? Because he absolutely loves Scanlan. He's a big dummy, and Scanlan is the most entertaining person in his entire world, and so that's why he loves Scanlan. He loves Pike because they have this familiar relationship. He loves Vax because, like, they're both powerhouses, and they're both kind of afraid of each other.
He can hit me the balls and not have to worry about it.
Exactly. And you can go and you can start to see, and they're very, very efficient about setting up these relationships in the show. Yeah. And so it's blink if you can, like, blink and you'll miss it. But they do take the time to show you, here is the dynamic between these two characters. And that's where the interesting originality comes from in these characters. Like, Vex and Vax are so generic on their own.
They are, again, like, there's a reason that generic things work. It's because people do just relate. Like, it's that relatability as well. Like, everybody has, like, played, like, obviously it depends on your play style, but, like, we've all either played that edgy rogue who's always brooding, or we've who just wants to smash things physically and sexually. Like, that's
the horny bard and the socially maladjusted druid.
Although I do have to say my favorite druid is the one that just wants to see the world burn and have the entire forest take over everything. That's my favorite druid. Not Mark, druid.
Druid, if you really think about it, druids should be much more terrifying than they are depicted in D&D. They
should be chaotic evil. Like, there is like, they say that they're true neutral. No. No.
They should be lurking in the forest.
Have you seen Planet Earth? Let me tell you. There is things not safe for television on that, ladies and gentlemen. They try to tell you that it's E for everyone. No. Act like one of those creatures in half an episode in public. See what happens. Just see. But what's going on is they do see that Finch is in some lurking outfits. Scanlan and Grog are seeing him, and they, like, it's the whole thing where Scanlan's in the keg while Grog is drinking ale, and they follow him to the manor, and of course at the manor they experience the classic door problem, which, I'm not gonna lie, I am sad that this is the moment that they chose to use for the door rather than the actual moment, because I know it's nitpicking, but it seems like they're trying too hard in this moment, while they could have very easily done it when it actually became a thing in the Briarwood Arc later on. But I don't know, like, what's your again, like, I know I'm the pessimistic one in these first two episodes.
Well, and I think that, again, they're dealing with kind of the problem of nostalgia, which I think that in 20 years, we're all going to look back on how pop culture tended to handle nostalgia right now, and we're all going to be cringing. We're all cringing now
already
about it. We're
Yeah.
already there about the Marvel humor and the... Yeah, so they are very clearly shoehorning in this joke that is there for the people who watch the show and are like, oh yeah, doors. And like, there are examples from this era, this arc of the campaign of them having ludicrous amounts of trouble with a door. But and this is a viewpoint that I think you and I are lacking, because both of us watched Critical Role as a live stream a lot and play D&D a lot. My wife plays D&D a lot, but doesn't watch Critical Role, doesn't know these in jokes. There were things that played very differently for her than I expected. And this was one of those moments that I think kind of fell flat, because what important thing about these characters are we saying right here? Is it just that they kind of suck? And to call back to what you've been saying, there's hardly any consequence for them taking so long to open a door. So why are we spending valuable screen time on it? It's just for the nostalgia bait.
Yeah.
And as much as I love to chuckle about doors and cows and all of that stuff, I think that it is harmful overall for the feeling of the show as a cohesive thing. And if you were going to shoehorn in a door joke, later in the Briarwood arc would have been a better place for it. When we had just more context.
I feel like there's moments where you can cut the tension, because the Briarwood arc gets dark. I love it. I love how dark it is. But especially for the normie fans, you want to try to speckle within like some humor as much as you can. With these first two episodes, like, don't get me wrong, dead kids in the first episode, that's dark right there. But like, I completely glazed over the fact that Gilmore and Vax are verbally fucking each other in this entire episode over here, just like edging each other on and just having like wordplay. But again, like, we're just filled with so much of this sort of humor that I wish that they, and again, I can get the logic of like, hey guys, don't you worry, we're going to be giving you all these little Easter eggs, but save it. We need more darkness in this show to like reflect, especially with how dark Percy's storyline is going to get. There's no need to speckle this humor in here, because you're going to need it later on.
Yeah, well, and there are other in-jokes that I think worked a lot better. And you mentioned Gilmore's, that's like the in-joke that I laughed the hardest at, is his, like, here's the Lance of Dragon Slaying, 120,000 gold. Like, that is chef's kiss to me, because that is genuinely how it be with campaigns. You dangle this thing in front of the party to just say, to kind of communicate that, like, yes, there is a reason why you want money, that there's something to spend it on later. But, number one, have you ever played or seen anyone play a character that used a lance? Ever?
Didn't Brant have a lance at one point?
I think you might have had a lance and then realized what it was and how it worked, and just been like, nope, never mind, no lance.
I think I used it for a little bit because having a horse was a big part of my character, but like, the horse kept either getting taken away or dying. I don't know who would kill my horse, Colby. I don't know who would kill my fucking horse. That's a deep dive for those who know.
I killed his horse.
But like, yes, like, absolutely, like, a lance is one of those weapons that, like, even in video games, like if you play Monster Hunter, like, for those of you that love Monster Hunter, the lance sucks even there. Like, and it's this hyper specialized thing that we all kind of know from the pop culture existence of fantasy, but we all know that it kind of doesn't fit
this setting at all. And so it's a great, like, hey, here's something that would totally solve your problem, and you can't afford it, and you can't use it anyway, because, like, no dragon is gonna agree to joust you.
Not with that
Like,
attitude,
that's a
Colby.
great joke that kind of works on multiple levels. It's funny for the dungeon masters who are like, yeah, I've totally done for my groups, the in joke is the weapons of warning, because I use a shop generator online that just kind of like gives prices to various weapons, and for some reason a weapon of warning, even though it's only an uncommon item, is typically the most expensive thing in the shop because it's uncommon, but it's kind of game breaking. So if you don't make a weapon of warning that is supposed to be fairly common and easy to find, but also you need to make it 60,000 gold or it's going to break the hell out of your game. And this just felt like that, and I so appreciate it. That's one of the few places where I think one of my bigger criticisms of this show overall is that it feels less like D&D than I think it could.
Well, I think we mentioned this during our Delicious in Dungeon take, but I think Delicious in Dungeon is more of a Dungeons and Dragons show than Legends of Vox Machina. Like, it's been a while since I'd seen it, but like the more and more I get into it, like, I think that that's the case. Like, even just battle structures. I'll put a pin in this because I do think that it's worth bringing up when the Brimscythe fight part 2 actually happens. But to just wrap up the scene with Gilmore and Vex, they do go over that there's when the rivers meet together, the blah, 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 blah. Like, that's how you defeat a dragon. They're like, what gibberish is this?
This is in no way planting a seed that will be paid off later.
Exactly. So they do break themselves into Krieg's manor, and they find out that Finch is actually trying to help reveal that Krieg is the villain, and Krieg kills Finch, and Krieg flees through a magical portal, which of course has to be a scandalous sleed. At first I thought it was a tiefling, but like when they did the zoom in on her face, she had like an elongated face. So was she like a dragonborn tiefling, or what was going on here?
Looked like a World of Warcraft Draenei or something.
Yeah, didn't look like anything in this world.
Yeah, that was a little odd, but I think that wasn't the part we were supposed to be looking at. So
I think it was exactly what we were supposed to be looking at. I thought it was the Ruby of the Sea when I first saw it. Like, that's where my mind
that would have been such a cool, like, that would have been a beautiful thing to stick in there.
Yeah, because
if they could make that clear.
I think, again, for those of you that are going to watch Mighty Nine, you'll know exactly what we're talking about. But for those of you that don't know, it sucks to know be in the dark over here. But let's just keep plowing over. They do find out that is a magical portal to what seems to be a lair, and that's where we find out that Krieg is actually Brimscythe, and the battle commences. And I think the biggest thing that I have against what they do here is they take away how D&D fights is more about just steadily taking an opponent down and injuring him, rather than like, it seems like they just take him out in like 3 hits in here. And Delicious in Dungeons, it does seem like there's more of like several, like death of 1,000 cuts, while Brimscythe literally just goes down after 2 hits. And I low-key hate that. Like, going back to like how they nerfed Grog literally like got wiped out in a second. And then in this go ahead, he literally cuts Krieg's head in half as a dragon form, like with one strike. And I'm like, okay, where was that Grog? Like, where was that Grog? Like a little bit ago. And
we've got a huge problem of inconsistent power levels all over the place. And the power level shows up when it's time for the story, when the story says it's time, rather than showing why that power level is there, which I think does undercut it a little bit. Like, again, they're trying to make a pretty silly, like, adult animation thing, and there's a lot you can get away with there. They're not trying to make Shakespeare, but it really does mean, I think my problem with it is that it just means that you can't think about things very hard.
Which is horrible for this show, for our show, for this.
I know. I would never overthink something.
Neither one of us.
But like
two dungeon masters overthinking something? No, never.
Seriously, like I think I'm probably gonna draw this comparison over and over because to The Expanse, because that is a great example again of adapting something well. In both cases, both the original and the adaptation are very popular in their own right and are both very respected. The Expanse TV show had to cut down on a lot of the science and a lot of the explanation of what's going on, but it hints at it. It knows that those details are there. This show says to its viewers, like, D&D is behind this. You don't need to know anything about that. It doesn't matter. Which I think is a little disappointing. And yeah, where's at the suspension of disbelief?
If I had the creative decision to make it over, what I would have done is that they're just slowly like firing at him. They're slowly cutting him up. And Brimscythe is just bleeding in all these parts and he's just getting angrier and angrier. And he's using his, if you want to give the illusion that he's just this powerful beast that can't be killed with normal ways, like I would almost like have it so it's like just pissing him off, so where he just starts launching his lightning everywhere what he does, but that eventually leads to his own demise, where he like makes it so an entire stalactite does drop on him on accident, and that's when they get a chance to like actually go in. And I also was just thinking while you were talking about that, like what Grog did with splitting his head open was totally like, they were like, hey, how do you want to do this? Like That was a classic, like, how do you want to do this? It doesn't really make any sense, like with what's going to it. But like, how did Grog want to actually kill Brimscythe? And as epic as it is, it just makes no sense and is inconsistent with what's going on in the show.
This was something that I said, like we could almost like start a counter for how many times am I going to say, turn your fights into puzzles. I think that they are trying to do that here, and it does work better than it could. I think you could make this a very, very boring scene if you were slavishly, just trying to like shot for shot remake the fight from the campaign. But I think that the time and the amount of struggle and the amount of character growth that we see in between the setup to that, showing the rivers that meet in Gilmore's shop, obviously we're setting something up there, and then it pays off very, very quickly. And so we don't get that sense that like they're genuinely struggling with, how do we do this? It doesn't feel like they've solved a mystery. It just feels like they picked up the answer that was there all along.
And I also just have to say, and again, like, guys, I swear, we're so close to be talking positively about this show. It's going to eventually happen. But, like, what is even the point of, like, where the two rivers meet? Because that's not what actually, like, it grounded him, maybe. It made it so he couldn't fly, because it's what Grog splitting his skull in half is what killed him. It wasn't that whole, like, I don't know. Like,
yeah. So, like, I think the story is a little bit hampered by the fact that they're trying to tell a different story than what D&D in its like tactical design is capable of telling. D&D is really good at like protracted tactical fights where everybody's getting knocked around. What they're showing here, I think, works better with Daggerheart. It works better with different systems. I could run a fight that feels more like this with Monster of the Week, or I should say Dungeon World, a more rules-light system where it really is just about, you need to figure out this fight and then what you do is going to start working. But yeah, I agree with you that like in the translation from a very tactical, like long drawn out slog of a tactical fight to this very superhero-y, very story forward style, it loses something, and they kind of struggle to explain how this is supposed to be working. You kind of can't look too deep into this. You can't again, can't think about it too hard.
What you got to do is you got to not think about it. You got to look at it, and just not think about it.
But again, my wife loved the scene, and the emotional payoff worked. So like, I think this is honestly a place where I felt like maybe my baggage with Critical Role was taking away from my enjoyment from this.
And I do just have to check myself, because I do know, as somebody who just purely loves D&D and like purely loves me in particular, like I know that the show knows your gripes that you have with it, but I very much do enjoy the system, but I also just wish that they would have given it a little bit more of a nod and a wink in the show, particularly in the combat. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's no crying over spilt milk, but I do not want to talk shit on this show anymore. So I'm going to quickly go ahead and get to some points where we can. The episode wraps up with, like we said, that before the fight actually kicked off, there was some oddly placed rocks where a green eye opened and said intruders and then broke apart, which I believe that happened in the campaign, if I understand it correctly.
I don't remember.
I think,
but it's possible.
I think that happened, but when they, neither here nor there, that does end up happening. They go and show that it was Krieg who was actually the dragon, and they're rewarded, but not with gold, but with a keep here in Amon, so that they can be official protectors. And I mean, who doesn't want real estate? Real estate's the real treasure.
Yeah, well, and it's a very like tried and true and well tested way of rewarding adventuring parties.
Yeah.
You know, if you've got something, and it's kind of a dirty dungeon master trick to like, hey, I'm gonna give you guys this special thing. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love it so much that you're gonna be terrified when I threaten to take it away. I just did this to one of my groups. Like, they've had a bastion, they've had a home in the city of Uthadern for nigh on a year in game, and somebody broke in and killed one of their servants. And boy, I didn't have to do anything else to sell that we're supposed to hate this villain.
Don't touch my house. Don't touch
so
my
like
house.
Again, I enjoy that kind of as a nod to like, this is such an RPG kind of move. This is a dungeon master kind of move.
Yes.
Kind of in the way that the D&D movie is chock full of that kind of stuff. And that's why that movie feels like it's just what's going on in the head of somebody who's playing a long D&D campaign. But yeah, so like getting real estate is awesome. The hinting at the eye opens and says intruders. That's another dirty DM trick. I don't remember for sure if that was in the show. I would not be shocked, and I would be shocked if Matt knew where he was going with that at the time. I cannot tell you how many times I have just been like, yeah, there's a letter in here, and it says, do not fail me again, or I will kill you.
Well,
Signed, Master.
If I'm remembering correctly, it was right before Vax and Vex had their like, what are we doing here? Where they broke into Krieg's house and they had to fight the purple worms. And Keyleth saw that on the wall, and then it disintegrated. So it was like literally 2 episodes before the Chroma Conclave, which again, we're not there yet, but I just want to say, so mad that they got rid of that speech from Vax as well. Like that was such a but no spilled milk.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. And then the episode of part 2 wraps up with, I think, such a great way to introduce the Briarwoods. Like you see, and I am so, like I was saying this a little earlier, just hinting, I am so glad that they gave Matt Mercer like a lead role in the show. And I don't think that I could really think of the only other person, ironically enough, that I would have wanted to voice for Lord Briarwood was Travis, because I remember when they did the Halloween, and he did such an amazing, like him and Laura did such an amazing Briarwood couple, and I think Travis could have actually done a really amazing
absolutely
Silas. I was so happy with Matt being able to be Lord Briarwood.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of Matt works particularly because, you know, in his voice roles, he kind of tends to take on the like pretty boy, really smooth, put together kind of character. I don't think he usually takes on the really like heavy, like brooding evil. And that's partly why Silas Briarwood works so well, because he's having a great time. Like he's a villain that enjoys being a villain. And that can't be every villain you do. That gets old real fast. But God, I love it when it works.
Which I think this is a great time to kick off A Feast of Realms, episode 3, which the episode kicks off with Percy having a dream of what actually happened that night, where Percy's family was murdered by the Briarwoods and the Briarwoods like team that they got together. And we're already seeing like just the level of trauma that, and again, like, I think that I love this in the show, and particularly just visibly showing us how much trauma Percy has, because I don't think that you get it, but you don't get it when you're listening to the campaign, because again, Taliesin has so many gifts, but when Percy was talking about what actually happened, it seemed like he was borderline bored rather than actually like nervous, because again, like, it's just with how he portrayed Percy, like it was almost one and the same of like, okay, Percy being nervous and Percy being bored. That's just the vibe I got during the actual campaign. But when you actually see like the horrors that Percy goes through, you're like, oh my God, like this, like, how is this guy not like a super villain at this point?
Exactly. Yeah. And I even remember exactly what you're talking about when he, you know, in character is describing all of this. And I know what he's going for. He's going for something really genuine and real, where you're, you know, recounting something deeply traumatic. It can be a lot easier to do if you kind of like just flatten out about it. And he's doing that. But this is probably another theme I'm going to bring up, of pointing out something that Critical Role didn't do well immediately, which is they are all very good actors, but they're so focused on their voices that typically when they are playing these characters, they're just doing the voice or not. So when it's Grog speaking versus Travis, you can definitely tell, because it's either like, hey, how many hit points is that? Or is it 8 points is that? You know, it's an over-the-top voice, so you can tell. But this is such a thing in role play where somebody will do their own voice and they'll get into character, but you can end up in a place where, was that in character? Was that out of character? Was that acting? Are you like in real life angry about this? We can talk about Scanlan's blow up later on. Like, I remember when that happened, I watched that one live, and the community was beside itself because they thought this was the end of the game, because they thought Sam Riegel himself was saying that. But he was playing a character like a Joker character like himself, and he is so good with his voice. But what they don't do is, you know, Taliesin Jaffe didn't say, you know, you see Percy's hands shaking, you know, his face goes white, he closes his eyes, and he says flatly. So they don't do a lot of narration. They speak in character beautifully well, but I think it's an important skill for players to narrate their characters as well, and make it clear, you know, some of these nonverbal cues can really add depth to these moments and make it clear what's actually happening.
I'd love your insight on this, because whenever I've tried doing narration, like obviously as a DM, like I do narration all the time for NPCs, for villains, all that good stuff. But whenever I try doing it as a player, like I always feel super awkward about it, or just feel like I'm like, and maybe it's because I feel like I'm trying to take up too much of the spotlight when I'm doing that. Because again, like I said earlier, it's very much a thing to me that I don't want. I want to avoid anything I can from having main character syndrome in that.
Yeah.
So what advice would you have I imagine I'm not alone in this. Like, what advice would you give to somebody who's like necessarily struggling with that in the narration of just, does it just mean lean into it, get awkward with it, like just to accept it? Or like, what would you say?
Yeah. Yes and no. So I would say that this is a great example of something that the larger like RPG community memes about RPGs are very different from how it actually ends up working. And so these sorts of horror story scenarios where you've got a real problem main character thing going on is very present in all of our minds. But in my experience, most people who just want to play a character, who just want to play D&D, are actually more hampered by being afraid of doing that than they are likely to ever do that. It's, you know, it's kind of like you police yourself out of doing any amount of main character, and you end up kind of like either undercutting how clear it is when you are in character, when you are taking the spotlight. And so, yeah, I do think that honestly, the answer is to get a little bit comfortable with taking up time and taking up space. This can be fucking therapy too. Get comfortable taking up space and trust that people will tell you if it's becoming a problem. If you are a person who makes it clear that you're open to being told, like, hey, that's too much of the spotlight, then you can know, you know, this is something that groups will just get better at over time as they get to know each other and where everybody's boundaries are. But I think my advice for most D&D players right now who are like, I want to do that, is just do it. Trust yourself. Just do it.
Make your dreams come true. No, I appreciate that. And I do think that is something that I like. Again, just seeing the negative sides of people trying to have that main character. And I very much want to give my fellow players around me, or just like everyone around me, to have a chance to be in the sun. I never really wanted like take on that, but I'll go, like, that's definitely something I'm going to be taking in and doing on my own.
Yeah.
But moving along here real quick, we do get to the whole point of behind this episode is there is a banquet to talk about this, the lack of security in the realm. Uriel's inviting dignitaries from all over the place. Like, you get we actually hear about Craghammer in this episode as somebody comes in. And that's why the Briarwoods come. And this is supposed to be Percy's like big moment, because he's like finally back in high class society. Percy is old money. He loves these balls. He loves all of these things and he's surrounded by idiots. He's surrounded by mongrels. He's surrounded by peasants. And again, I think that's also something that I do genuinely love about Percy's character, is that he's not afraid to be an asshole, but he doesn't like, it's not his personality that he's an asshole. He's just wealthy. Yeah.
That's something that Taliesin Jaffe honestly is excellent at, and kind of does to some extent in all of his characters. Caduceus probably to the least extent, but like Molly Mock and his character from Campaign 3, I'll think of it later.
Rockhead.
Rockhead guy. You know, he's really good at playing like kind of a punk, obviously. And he's really good at playing that, like, he's an asshole, but he's very clearly a well-meaning asshole. Well, he's just unpolished.
The funny you say that about Caduceus, because I think Caduceus in his own way is very much an asshole, because I don't want to say he's a self-righteous asshole, but he's like a holy asshole. He's sort of like, you probably shouldn't do that. You're a dick.
Yeah.
Like, and again, like
his problem is he's a little bit too like aloof with the world, and he doesn't really seem to care sometimes.
Yes, he's too high. Like, he's like, that's not right. That's not nice. Yeah, he's really not nice.
I mean, my favorite way of wrapping up Caduceus is just like something bad happens to him. What's his first response? Help, it's again. That's it.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not talking about Caduceus quite yet. That's a whole other.
I mean, I genuinely think like Percy is a good character because he's got a good backstory that the whole group is really leaning into. This is another of those like hard lines to walk. Like, as a dungeon master, how much space do you give like your player character's backstory? How important do you make it? And this is one view of it that works incredibly well and makes you love these characters when you've seen them, when you see the hole that Percy almost falls down.
Yes.
And then you watch him claw his way back It means that everything that comes after, every time he's in danger, you feel that, like, oh no, he couldn't have gone through the Briarwoods to die here.
Yeah.
That's the magic that you can access. But it's so hard to give a character's backstory a gigantic campaign arc.
Well, I agree, but at the same time, and I know this is, if you watch the Delicious in Dungeon episode, you guys know this. Colby and I very much are in favor of having our players come in with 6 pages, single space, none of this double space.
Yeah.
Like we want as much detail, because the more that our players are able to give us, the more we're able to push out and create. One of my favorite characters was Brant, and just I had so much fun of trying to create such a horrific backstory for him. And
and honestly, Brant too is a bit of an archetypical character. He's the angry guy. He's on a quest for revenge. He's a fallen knight in shining armor. But it's that kind of thing where the juice never comes from how wacky your character looks when you introduce them, or how cool or weird your mechanical build is. It's this building up of meaning over time as you watch this person strive and fail and get in their head.
No, and it's like you said earlier, they're archetypes for a reason. They work.
Yeah. And I really wish people were less afraid of them. I wish people were less afraid to do the generic thing,
And I do have to say again, I know that Liam, again, guys, we'll get back to this. Actually, we'll get back to Vox Machina eventually. I know we're talking about how Liam tries to create crazier and crazier stories, but I think at the end of the day, it is an archetype that he is creating. Again, I haven't seen campaign 3. I only watched the first 6 episodes before I lost interest. But did I say that? And I haven't seen campaign 4, but it does seem like, at least with Caleb, that yes, he seems at first to be not really an archetype, but he very much is. He's a tragic genius that has been going through you just have to eventually get to that archetype that's buried underneath there.
Yeah, you have to understand what it is about this character that we're trying to build up to. And Caleb works, again, because you start out with all this mystery. He's just this hobo. He's kind of weird. He loves his cat. He travels with this drunk goblin.
Let's deal with fire.
What's going on with fire? And I think that is a very well handled, mysterious backstory. I think Liam really likes to reach for these big archetypical characters, make them very personal. He's got such a drive to do that. I think one of the major problems with campaign 3 is that he tried too hard to stop himself from doing that, because people criticized him for typically, having main character energy, because his characters are typically very interconnected, very they have reasons to care about things, and he's very good at putting that out on the table and making sure everybody knows about it and interacts with it. But it can come off as him hogging the limelight.
Which, again, that comes down to what we were saying earlier. If you ever do want to do a campaign where you're streaming it, you just have to you have to tune out the noise. And again, it's so much easier said than done. I wish I could sit here and say a comment has never affected me. I've never spent just hours staring at a single comment, contemplating my entire day. And I can't imagine for having literally hundreds of messages coming in a second saying, get out of the spotlight. It's, I'm sure that it gets to you, but at the same time, especially what we know about, again, we don't know what they're like in private, but very much in public facing, they're all trying to give each other that chance to take that opportunity and go. And we'll get down to campaign 3 eventually, but
yeah, probably.
Well, at this rate, I don't know if we are, because we haven't even got through episode 3 yet. But going back to the party, they all eventually have a sit down where it's all the council members of Tal'Dorei as well as the Briarwoods, and Silas is able to hypnotize or use a charm person spell on Uriel. And that's really what they came to do. You come to find out that that's really what they wanted to do, because at this point they haven't left Whitestone, which they're ruling over, in years since they took it over. And again, like, I don't think that was necessarily the reason that they came to Tal'Dorei, not Tal'Dorei, came to Amon in the stream, but at the same time, I think this works better than like the whole bridge agreement that they were doing. Like, but I like that. But during this time, Vax is going through their stuff, like the classic rogue, which he's discovering that there's a whole occult, witchy, necromancy journal with a shrine and everything, and the name Vecna keeps popping up. Wonder if that's going to be a big deal later down the road. And of course, this slowly devolves to like Percy just losing his mind, which again, like, I'm really split on it, because I love what we're actually able to see. But if we really, again, like, we're not supposed to, but if we think about this for longer than 15 seconds, can you imagine if that happened in real life, where you're literally sitting 5 feet away from the people who slaughtered your family in cold blood, and you're expected to have like this polite conversation? Like, I here's the thing, like, I have been in situations significantly less stakes, and I am not able to control my face, and not able to like I had to sit there and just like seethe and rage. And I know that's what Percy's doing, but this is like, I'm dealing with people insulting me behind my back rather than like what's going on. Like, no one's killed my family.
Depicting trauma, depicting a panic attack is hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to do it well, to do it, sensitively. Again, I think one of my biggest disappointments with the series overall is how quick things go. Like, I think that we have this one episode to show what happened to Percy, and they do a great job of selling, that he's traumatized. But I think it would have helped to show, to hint at that a little bit. Put him in a less direct position and show him starting to have, some nerves or something like that. It's all kind of like thrown on us very quickly in a way that doesn't give it time to kind of enter our consciousness of what this character is like. I think this is a show that's got a problem of like too many deep, multifaceted characters and not enough time to sell it.
Yes. And again, like, we're going to keep saying this during our coverage, literally hundreds of hours that they're trying to put into 20 minutes each episode.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, even just the plague of shorter and shorter TV seasons. Like,
goddamn producers.
Remember when it used to be a sure thing that you were going to get 12 episodes in a season? How did Game of Thrones do when they cut it down to 8?
We don't talk about that season.
That season doesn't exist. Exactly.
There's no war in Bossing Say.
Like, I can love on Chernobyl all day long. That is one of my favorite series ever. It's so short, but it's a limited series. It feels like HBO, it feels like Hollywood in general, the big production companies just want to make things shorter and shorter and more densely packed. And I think, were this show made at a different time, if it were made in the late 90s, we would have gotten 26 episodes in this season.
We might have gotten 100 episodes.
Yeah, if they went the Dragon Ball Z route, we would have gotten hundreds of episodes, and there would have been
Grog running.
Exactly, and then it would have been a much more niche thing, obviously. And like, honestly, there's a reason that's a trend that kind of went away. You end up with a lot of episodes that end up feeling like they don't matter. But I have a lot of nostalgia for that kind of storytelling, going back and watching like Babylon 5 and the X-Files. And yeah, there are crappy episodes that don't matter. And somehow slogging through them makes the whole thing more worthwhile at the end, rather than what I think is I think that this show is a superhuman feat of cutting stuff down to only what is the bare necessities to have emotional impact and to understand what's going on with the characters, what's going on with the story. I think that is masterful.
Yeah.
And I wish they hadn't done it quite so much.
My favorite episodes in TV shows tend to be whenever they do like episodes solely focused on lore drop. Like those tend to be some of the best episodes to me, like in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, in Attack on Titan, just in these shows where they're just going in and talking deep about how did we get here? And again, like I think we could have done that with Percy with how dark and especially like building the pepper. And I know that there's like flashbacks and hints as we go along, but like I think this show could have really benefited strictly and it could have been like a whole dream sequence. I know it's cheesy and corny, but I think it could have worked. Just for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and just condense the rest of what happens into the show right here, and we can finish that up and do the dragon grade. But Silas and Delilah discover Vax trying to go through their stuff, and Silas bites Vax. Who knows if that's going to come up or be a big deal or not? Probably not. Probably, well, who knows? We'll see. But they go ahead and they do their fight, and again, like I wish they would have matched what went on in the show, because the show in the actual campaign, the fight seemed a lot more like evenly bet. Like, yes, it was difficult, but they were struggling. They had to run at the end. While it seemed like they were just playing with them the entire time, and it doesn't really feel as meaningful. But eventually they do decide like, okay, peace out. And that's when we start to see Percy get really dark, because he takes Desmond, the boy, and he shoots off his hand. He puts on the mask, smoke coming off. You see the demon in his shadow, and you just going full evil villain mode on him, and no mercy Percy coming out to play. And that's when luckily Uriel saves Desmond, and that's where the episode ends on the cliffhanger. But yeah, again, I know that's and of course, like we can't talk about Beads of Love. We can't talk about this episode enough of Beads of Love. Scanlan's erotic song that he's singing to distract everybody while this is all going down.
I mean, that's Scanlan in this show, I think, is doing something that is very important in showing the beneficial role of cringe in your D&D campaign.
Yes.
if nobody is afraid to look like an idiot, we don't get characters like Scanlan.
Yeah. Because if you're not afraid to look like an idiot, you don't get to look amazing. Like, because Scanlan has some of the most amazing moments. And again, I can't wait to talk about the Triceratops. I can't wait to talk about
the Scanbo incident is one of those like gold standard D&D stories that, like, if you really want to bore someone who's never played D&D, just describe the entire fight.
It's like describing a dream.
It's only fun for one party.
Yeah. But other than Beads of Love, what stood out to you?
Well, the thing, I mean, we have to talk about Pike a little bit, because you know, if any of your listeners aren't aware of what was going on there, Ashley Johnson was filming a whole ass TV show while this part of the campaign was going on, and she was Skyping in sometimes. And so there was a lot of dealing with a missing player character, or a missing player, and what to do with their character, which again 5e makes particularly difficult, because what balance there is to find is so barely there at all, that suddenly having one less player character can take a fight from fair and winnable to a bullshit slogfest, or like just getting beat. And you know, Ashley Johnson was in and out, and they obviously wanted to do the thing where Pike like holograms in and saves the day, and so they've got to set that up. But again, I even thinking about Pike's arc in this season overall, I was a little disappointed with where it went. It felt like her entire thing in this show was needing to get her mojo back, which, you know, it's kind of a classic trope, and she just needs to trust herself and whatever. But it takes up a lot of screen time, and I'm not sure how much it ends up doing for the plot overall, other than honestly getting this cleric out of the way so that, the rest of the party can struggle with undead.
And when we really go through the whole vision sequence, like, I have so many more thoughts, but I'm gonna reserve that for it, because I could not agree more. Like, it just seems like,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
and they didn't have the time to show where this lack of confidence could have come from. The show doesn't tell us hardly anything about Pike's background or why she is the way she is. And, maybe that detail was there and maybe it wasn't even in the original show, but they're trying to make it be there. I don't know. I think it ends up being one of the weaknesses of this show because, again, they're trying to prop something up without a good foundation in the source material, I guess.
Which I have to say, like, I am so excited to be able to see Ashley play Yasha in the
Yes.
Mighty Nine show, because, again, you could not have two characters more different. And you can tell that Ashley is I don't want to say having more fun, but I think Ashley is able to do so much more with Yasha. And it makes a lot more sense when she has to leave.
Yeah, well, and I also gather that Yasha is a more important and like personally important character for Ashley Johnson because
she puts so much of herself
she's
in
going to have to go through. And so she's talked about in interviews how this was her chance to access something that people didn't think she could do, or people didn't, I guess, associate her with. And so, Pike, I think Pike and Keyleth both are really interesting characters to think of, both in terms of their real life actors and comparing them to the characters that they would be followed up with that in many ways worked better. But and we'll have plenty of time for that, I'm sure.
Oh, we'll have plenty of time. And and I do think that there is, I don't want to get into it tonight just because we are running on quite a bit of time right now, but we definitely will at least have a conversation about just, Keyleth and Marisha, because I do think that there's conversations to be had. And I'm not one of those people, what I struggle with, no, we're not getting there. We're not going there. Anything else that you want to necessarily cover from the Briarwood fight right here before we go on and wrap things up?
Yeah, I think that the only thing I'll say is that, we've been talking about in the Brimscythe fight how power levels were a little bit hard, unpredictable, and it doesn't really make sense why one person beats another. I think bringing in a new, scarier villain helps that. So this fight did feel better, did feel more interesting and impactful. It felt like they got beaten rather than rather than the show just kind of waving its hand and said, and then this happens. It sells Silas's power. But again, it still has the problem of why the hell couldn't Pike do something about this? Why the hell couldn't Keyleth do something about this? And this show really does a lot of work to kind of cripple its casters, which you kind of have to do, both in real games and outside. But
well, and also that I noticed, if it was such a one-sided fight, why didn't they just kill Vox Machina? It's literally plot armor that's keeping them alive. I really think that they could have gotten away with making this fight. Again, you can make the argument it wouldn't be as exciting at the end, but I think that it would have been a little bit more meaningful because they literally just killed a dragon. You're telling me that a dragon is JV level compared, again, Silas is supposed to be our version of Strahd. He's supposed to be Dracula. He's supposed to be the most powerful vampire. But at the same time, I think a dragon is, what has the higher challenge rating? Let's be real here.
What feels scarier and more powerful, an ancient dragon or a really mopey vampire?
He's hot though, but
we all know the problems that Curse of Strahd has.
There are no problems, Colby. There is no problems in Curse of Strahd. I stand by that.
Curse of Strahd is a perfect campaign.
There's zero problems, okay? Just because I killed your character in it doesn't mean
I think that the Vampire Lord is actually a fantastic fantasy villain.
Yes.
It's a terrible way of saying that. But, you know, like if you look at Silas in the light, like if you watched this after watching the is it Scorsese? Anyway, the Bram Stoker's Dracula movie with Keanu Reeves, that is how you make a vampire feel like a villain, in that he's kind of just always there. He can be anywhere he wants. He can do anything he wants. This makes Silas a scary enemy for them to fight, but it in many ways hampers him in terms of like actual vampire powers. It gives him a really powerful sword and makes him really strong. But to me, a vampire is dangerous because they're hard to pin down.
Yeah. Because he really does feel like just, it seems like they just need a strong, beefy boy to fight Grog. And that's really, he just feels like a necrotic version of a barbarian. That's really, especially in this episode in particular, that's the vibes that I was getting. And don't get me wrong, like, that's why Delilah's there to sort of like, she's the actual villainous, like able to transport, able to like cast death magic. So they are supposed to even each other out. And I actually do have to say, I like that there isn't a focus on one of them. I like that they both sort of complement each other, but I do agree that it doesn't make Silas as terrifying. Like, Silas definitely does feel like Delilah's lapdog in a lot of ways.
Yeah, he feels like her bodyguard.
Which he is, but
yeah, and I think the show does a very good job of selling their relationship. These are two people who are clearly deeply in love with each other in the most fucked up way.
Well, I mean, I have to say, like, there was during Vox Machina, Laura was saying that she could see Vex becoming Lady Briarwood. Like, if it happened, like, she could see that happening. And again, I'd love to live in that alternate reality where Vex becomes Lady Vexalia of Vecna, and Percy becomes like a vampire. Like, I would love to see that. Like, when the Critical Role
get on that fanfic.
Yeah, what pads, get up there, get up my what pad girlies. But like, I know, I see what you mean, but I also, like, I think it works in some sense, but I also would love to see where it would have worked, like what you're describing in another way.
yeah, because, you know, to make this an interesting D&D campaign, which is the constraint that the entire story had to run under, and I think this is just what makes it really hard to adapt anything to do with D&D, is that this is supposed to be fun for 6 people in a room. And the story is going to do things that makes it fun for 6 people in a room that isn't the most effective for building a scary villain. You know, Delilah and Silas kind of take a back seat. And again, to me, if you make Strahd terrifying, if you make Count Dracula terrifying, it's not because you can hide in his city, sneak around, and if he catches you, he's going to kill you. It's scary because he knows what you're doing, because he keeps showing up behind you and saying, interesting move, and just psyching you out. Whereas, again, Delilah and Silas feel like the boss at the end of the level, rather than feeling like actual antagonists.
Well, and again, I know we're getting ahead of ourselves, and I think that you would agree with me on this. The Briarwoods never felt like Percy's final boss.
No.
It was Ripley that was always the final boss. And she's technically she's not even introduced at this point. Again, like, she's supposed to be the anti-Percy, or like the Percy that very well Percy could have been, like literally just one octave away. And I think that that's also sort of, again, like, not to say, again, we're talking about the peak of Critical Role. Like, this is literally the best part, and I love everything about the Briarwood arc. But I think the reason is that it doesn't necessarily make sense why the Briarwoods are the big bad villains. I think it would have made so much more sense to have Ripley be the big bad villain. But at the same time, I also sort of like the direction that they go, where they're like, oh, she's too smart for our own good. Like, we can't trust her with it. And they just needed a vampire arc. That's all really what it came down to.
They wanted an undead arc before the cleric was too powerful to snap her fingers and solve it all.
Exactly.
And that's just, I think in my head or in some alternate universe, there may exist in this universe an alternate screenplay for this entire thing where they scrapped the entire structure from the shows and Silas and Delilah end up making a lot more sense. I think that exists, and to an extent that headcanon, my feeling that could exist somehow adds to this. But again, it's silly to sit here and nitpick at some of the best D&D ever played.
Colby, I don't know if you know what show you're on right now, but we like I asked for medium rare. This is a little bit too rare. Take it back. Do you not see what I have on my head over here? You think I'm taking? But speaking of what I have on my head over here, Colby, do we want to do a dragon grade over here?
Absolutely.
All righty. Well, each week we do a dragon grade, grading the dragon of the media that we cover. We have 5 categories that we graded in. Those 5 categories are design, special effect, character, film, and X factor. We scale the dragon on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being abysmal, 10 being incredible, with 5 just being okay. Now, Colby, if it's all right with you, I would love to kick off our design of Brimscythe, which I'm going to be perfectly honest actually, before we do this, do you have a favorite dragon? Like, I know there's the metallics and the chromatics. If it's outside of that, that's totally fine too. But do you have a favorite dragon within the 5e realm?
I do. My favorite is actually the Dracolich.
The Dracolich. Ooh.
Because there is something about a dragon skeleton. It's always depicted as having all this like leathery, like skin scraps just like hanging from its bones. It is an undead dragon. And that has generally been my favorite of the like dragon designs that commonly show up in 5e. But yeah, when it comes down to like the chromatics, I find it actually really funny that like you and I ran a dragon focused campaign. What was the first kind of dragon we fought? Blue. Why does it always start with blue? Maybe that just should tell us what we should think about Brimscythe.
Well, it's funny that you say that. Like, again, like to me, like blue is actually my favorite of the dragon. Of like, even with the metallic, and it does make sense. I do actually want to follow up. Have you ever used a dragon lich in a campaign against it?
Yes.
How was that?
It was very terrifying for the characters. Let me put it that way.
So you were cackling over there like...
Yes. I've also used a shadow dragon more recently. But it got its shit kicked in, honestly. So it wasn't very scary.
Well, Colby, everyone already knows that I'm a cruel god. I am not a merciful god DM, so I love causing problems in that front. But going back, like, yes, I love the blue dragon, and in all reality, I think the blue dragon should be the most powerful of the 5, because out of all the breath weapons, lightning should be the most deadly. Like, lightning's the fastest. Lightning kills like so much faster. Like, yes, I know that the red dragon needs to be the most powerful because but I've always thought like lightning is significantly more dangerous than fire. Like and like I also just that this is neither here nor there.
And I also find I guess the lore as established in E behind the different kinds of chromatic dragons and where they like to be and how they like to operate. I think that the blue dragons are some of the most compelling in that they like these desert environments and they're like the elements incarnate.
Yes.
Whereas, the red dragon is there to be Smaug. The red dragon is there to fulfill the Lord of the Rings fantasy tropes. I really enjoy green dragons, the like swamp lurker. I think black dragons always made the least sense to me.
They have the best design, in my opinion.
They look very, very cool. And I really like white dragons as well.
Yes.
I think Vorgal is a perfect example, my favorite example of a white dragon just being an animal, just animalistic.
I do have to say, like, design wise, like, I love blue dragons because I love the lightning. I just love the color of blue that they picked. But if you could take that blue and you can take that lightning and put it on the white dragon, that's a perfect dragon to
Mhm.
me, because I think design wise, I love the white dragon, but I also do love the whole idea of, like, yes, they're the most animalistic and beast like, but
Mhm.
everyone sort of always forgets they're still a dragon. They still have intelligence. That just
Yeah.
means they are bloodthirsty and ruthless. It doesn't mean that
Yeah.
they're stupid. That just means that they're willing to act on
They're
their
very
instincts.
direct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I
Yeah, and I think this blue dragon didn't get that kind of background. It
no.
was just a dragon that was blue, which I
Yes.
think is unfortunate.
Yes. So before we show our hands too much, but I'm going to go ahead and jump in. I know I already showed my hand. I love the coloring. I love, like, how big and ominous that it did say, but I have to be honest, I hate the side flaps. Like, the side flaps on it, I'm like, what are we doing? Like, what's going on here? Like, this isn't the spit monster from Jurassic Park, like, not monster, but spit dinosaur. What are we
Uh-huh.
doing here? So it is getting knocked there in design for a little bit. I know that's not the show's fault, but I still don't like it. But I still
Mhm.
think it's a really good design. I really like it. It's very physically imposing. I'm going to say it's a 7. I think it's very good.
Nice. Yeah. I think I'm with you on that. I like the design. I think they gave it a little bit of extra size in
Mhm.
comparison to humans, which is necessary. Like, one of the problems with playing D&D is that you play with miniatures. And so our viewpoint is automatically downward on these things. And the show does a great job of, I guess this is a different category, but like showing it to us from a human perspective. You know, the color and its physicality, it really does loom out of the clouds, out of the mist. And it does make it feel very terrifying. So yeah, I'd give the design probably a 6, not because of like major flaws, but because of maybe some like missed opportunities.
No, I think that that's very acceptable and appropriate, which that does lead us into an area that I think I'm curious. We might have a different opinions on this, but special effects. I really wish that they would have just drawn out Brimscythe rather than doing the 3D animation. The 3D animation in season 2 and in season 3, it gets better and it looks better, but it just isn't it. And I think I would have enjoyed it so much more. And there was actually, like, the first time we see it in episode 1, I was like, really? This is like, it doesn't look as bad in a second episode, but during that first fight, I was really turned off to it. So the fact that it gets better, at least I was going to, if it's just off of episode 1, I was going to say 4. I think it's mediocre. But based off of what we see, how it goes in, especially with, like, the depth of animation where they're seeing, like, all the magic and elements fighting it, I think it does do some redemption. I think it's a 5. I think it's okay. But compared to all the other beautiful animation in this show, like, that's just really disappointing to me that the 3D
Mm-hmm.
animation in this just doesn't look as good.
No, I'm completely with you. I It's actually something that I notice in animated shows really like all the time. It's one of those things that I can't help but notice. You know, like you go back to like Futurama coming out in like 1999, and the 3D animation scenes from that were kind of groundbreaking at the time. That's 25 years ago. And I do think that Brimscythe looks like that level of 3D animation inserted into, you know, hand drawn animation. Yeah, and I'm with you. I think that, and maybe this should have gone into design a little bit, but like I think that the art style here is a very like even and clean art style that doesn't really lend itself to making a dragon look super terrifying. And then 3D animating that art style doesn't help at all. I absolutely would again, I prefer the dragon from Delicious in Dungeon because of all of the deformations that they did to, you know, they hand animated that in an artistic way rather than just like, oh, here's a dragon model that exists in our cartoon. So like I'm completely with you. I think that in terms of, you know, just how it makes it off the screen, it's not the best. It's got to be like a 4 for me.
No, we're just aligned in there. And I do also want to just emphasize as well that I think I get the direction they were going with, but again, I think that they should have, like, obviously the Briarwood arc was the focus of season 1. That's what it was going to be. And I think their logic was, let's put our entire animation budget into the Briarwood arc, which again, we're going to get into some amazing things that are coming up. But especially where this is the introduction to many people, Vox Machina. And again, I'm going to watch it because I'm a freak, but I know people that if they saw just that, they're like, really? This is what we're working with? Like, no, I'll turn it off. Like,
yeah.
Like, again, it's cool.
Well, and it becomes a hard sell if you have to tell people, you know, finish the 3rd episode before you decide.
Yeah.
You know, even there's a lot of fantastic media out there where it is kind of worth skipping a bit. You know, there's no reason you should ever watch the first season of Parks and Rec, you know? Like,
what are you talking about?
that's how it is sometimes. Yeah, again, it's really unfortunate how weak those first 2 episodes are in so many ways when exactly we're trying to form these bonds with these characters. We're trying to set ourselves into a world, and there's so much going against that in these first couple episodes.
Well, moving on to character, I am a little split because obviously Brimscythe has a lot of character and they do depict him as being vain, but I also just wish that General Krieg reflected that more. Like, because it seemed like General Krieg was not dragon-like at all, and Krieg was just as much a part of the show as Brimscythe was. And so I'm docking at points for not necessarily reflecting I wish we could have seen just this hungry, bloodthirsty general that was just eager, like, we can send all the men we need. Like, what? And they could eat, and it would have been compelling too. Like, I will lay down every life in Tal'Dorei if it means defeat. Like, they could have done something like that and it would have been more compelling. But instead, it was, we're going to go fight the dragon, guys. Like, this guy doesn't reflect well. So he's losing points there for me. But I also do like that they make their dragons talking dragons, which is a big deal for me. So I'm giving it points there. I'm giving it another 5. I'm going to say that his character is okay. I don't think it's good. I don't think it's bad. I just think it's okay.
Yeah, I'm again pretty much with you lockstep there. I think that again, had these first 2 episodes had a little bit more time, a little bit more lead up. If it had been a first 5 episodes, they could have done more here. And I would have loved to have more David Tennant. You know, he voices Krieg amazingly well, but then again, you know, they're pushing so hard to get these plot points out in 2 episodes that Brimscythe does things not because there is a character reason that you could see, that you could read, but because the story calls for it, because it's you know, because he's doing an evil. And yeah, I don't think that the his characteristics and motivations are very well, if they're there at all, they're not very well communicated. I'll say I'm giving him a point for being thus far the only Tiamat mention probably ever in any Critical Role media. We need that. And I like Tiamat as a character, but both because of like actual ancient mythology and what they did with it in D&D, but that's all the Tiamat that we get, and showing that, you know, showing that is definitely there again as like a nod to the people who know it's an in-joke, but it shows us that there are beliefs behind this character. Yeah, I think it didn't come through very well, but it feels like there could have been some character there. So like, I'll give it a 7. It's like
Okay.
decent. Could have been a lot better in better circumstances, I think.
No, I can definitely get behind that. Well, we're on to film, and I'm going to be grading the episodes that Brimscythe is in. Obviously, I've not said anything critical about these.
You have no problems whatsoever with it.
No problem.
10 out of 10.
10 out of 10. No, like, I'm sorry, guys. I know that there's going to be a lot of critters out there that are going to be angry at this, but I don't think I feel comfortable giving it a 2, which is very bad. But I think saying that it's just bad is not good enough for me. So I'm going to give it a 2.5, somewhere in between very bad and bad. I just, again, I can't explain how much I struggled through these first 2 episodes. And once getting to the Briarwood arc was such a fresh relief, because again, it's just not it for me. Like, I don't have anything to actually connect with, and it's so over the top with, like, again, I know that you like the crude humor and all of that,
Yeah.
but for me, it's just, I guess my Mormonism's coming out right here. But like, it didn't scratch the itches for me that I wanted. And when I first watched those 2 episodes, Colby, I was livid. Like, I can't tell you, like, I almost gave up on, like, no, I've had it, Mercer. But like, again, like, it completely turns around for me, and I do feel differently once we get in. But these first 2 episodes, it's not it for me. And again, I know there's going to be critters out there that disagree with me, but I'm willing to stand by that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that where this gets points for me, again, is just like, it's here for shock value. It's here for, like, hey, this isn't your dad's fantasy. And I think it's effective at that.
Yeah.
But I agree that it doesn't feel like how a dragon should feel, I think, in fantasy. It doesn't fulfill, what we as humans think of as, like, the dragons that are out there, the threat. It feels like a video game boss, is animated like a video game boss.
Yeah.
And, even, just overall, even dropping rocks on himself is not my favorite thing. So yeah, I agree that this is really not the best. Obviously, we get better dragons.
Oh, we do.
We get better dragons.
4 of them.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
And yeah, so I think as filmmaking, this is not super effective. It's not great. It's spending too much of its energy on setting something up rather than being good on its own. So yeah, again, I'll give it some points for just the Herculean task of everything they were trying to shoehorn into these 2 episodes. But I agree. It's by far the worst dragon in this series. I think there are shows with worse dragons. But
the 2000 D&D movie has the best dragons out there, Colby.
What about, I forget the year, but it's like 1998's Merlin with Sam Neill. Now that is an A+ dragon.
That is a great dragon, Colby, and I will not have slander on this show with words.
Yeah, so I think I'll give this like a 4. It's like
4.
Doing enough.
Yeah.
For me to not say it's like they should feel bad about it, but
okay,
it could have been a lot better.
I can't be mad at that. Ironically enough, so the last subject is the X Factor, and I am actually, with the exception of personality as well as biome, I'm going to give it credit for the fact that they are pretty loyal to at least the design and the breath weapon of... I mean, like, X Factor can really be whatever you want. So, like, whoever's screaming at me right now, like, just know I make the rules here, Calvin Ball style. I do appreciate how loyal they are to a blue dragon in D&D. We don't really ever see lightning as a breath weapon from a dragon, and I love that. Like, I think it's such a refreshing, and in a lot of ways, I think it makes... I don't want to say more sense, but it's like, it's more of a projectile that they're shooting out rather than like a gust of flame. And I just do love that aspect of it. I also do love that each time that it got brought up, a storm was coming. I think that was a nice little fun touch that they didn't need to include, but they did. So I'm gonna say for X Factor that it's good. I think it's a 6. I think it's nothing to really balk at home for, but I'm gonna give it a 6 for like even though it's
Yeah, I think that, to me, one thing that this dragon does well is evil and cruelty.
Yes.
I think that, like, maybe to a problematic extent, Brimscythe is there just to show you that, like, evil exists. And I think that Brimscythe seems to revel in, destruction and causing terror. The first few minutes of the second episode where it's, showing the soldiers and they get the pep talk and they're like, we can take this dragon! And then they get just absolutely annihilated in terrifying manner. So, like, this is a dragon with a mission, and that mission is to sow terror, and I enjoy that in a villain. So I'll give X Factor 7 here.
Ooh, a 7. Alrighty. Well, that gives us a final score for Brimscythe in Legends of Vox Machina of 5.35, which is a little bit between okay and good, which, I think pretty appropriate for where we all lined up.
But that's truth. We speak truth.
We only speak truth. And knowledge and authority. But that is our opening chapter to Legend of Vox Machina. Colby, I am so excited to be covering this in further detail. It's been a long time coming. I'm super glad, and I'm definitely not going to hate myself later, where technically we filmed for 3 hours here. So I was
you thought you were going to get off easy with me?
Oh, Colby, I never get off easy with you. But do you want to, I know you'll be back next week, but do you want to plug real quick anything before we take off for the evening?
I will plug my YouTube channel again, even though, as you know, we're having a little production trouble with our Cosmere RPG game, but you can head over to Rock, Paper, Science on YouTube and see our very rough Delta Green campaign. It's very creepy. It's pretty messed up, and it's very rough. So, like, if you're into that, like, niche, like, punk vibe, I'll say that is right down your alley. And more stuff with different feelings coming soon.
No, I mean, Colby, they're listening to me. What do you think? Well, I love you all. Please go check out Colby's channel. Like he said, it was Rock, Paper, Science. Go check it out. We'll be back next week to talk about the next 3 episodes. So that'll be episode 4, 5, and 6, which I think I'm going to make it a little bit of a spooky edition since it's technically the week of Halloween. So maybe there might be red lights in here. Maybe not. We'll see. I don't know. Ooh, vampires and ghosts, my. Ooh. But until then, like, share, subscribe, share it with your mom, share it with your pa, share it with your grandma, and have a good night.
That's all for this week's Dragon Lore. Takes cold and hot, spread shore to shore. Enjoyed yourself? Please join the squad. Follow on social media at BigLizPod. And one quick reminder before you go, to rate, review, and share the show. Thank you for listening. It means a lot. See you next week, same time, same spot.